Welcome, my friend. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to talk about yesterday and your mind went blank? Today, we fix that. You'll learn past tense like a real life skill, not a scary grammar topic. By the end, you'll be able to tell your story clearly, ask questions confidently, and explain what happened in a way that sounds natural. Stay with me, because the final part will connect everything and you'll feel your English level rise in one lesson. Part 1. Time and meaning. There is a moment in every learner's journey when English stops feeling like a subject and starts feeling like a living, breathing part of who you are. That moment does not begin with memorizing rules. It begins with understanding something much deeper and much more human. Language exists because we live inside time. Every single day, from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you close them at night, you are moving through time. You wake up, you eat, you speak, you walk, you work, and later, you remember. You think about what already happened, you share it, you relive it. This is where the past becomes powerful. The past is not grammar, the past is your life, and English gives you the power to express that life clearly, confidently, and naturally. Right now, as you are listening to this, you are in the present. This moment is happening now. But just a few hours ago, your life looked different. Maybe you woke up early. Maybe you stayed in bed a little longer. Maybe you checked your phone. Maybe you spoke to someone you care about. Those moments are finished now. They live behind you. And when you talk about those finished moments, you step into the past. This is the true meaning of past tense. It is simply your way of showing that something already happened and is now complete. It is not about difficult rules, it is about clarity. It is about helping the person listening to you understand when something happened. Think about how naturally this exists in your daily life. You might say, I woke up early today. You might say, I ate breakfast at 7. You might say, I went to work. You might say, I watched a video last night. These are not special sentences. These are normal sentences. These are real sentences. These are life sentences. Every English speaker, whether they live in New York, London, Seoul, Mumbai, or anywhere else in the world, uses these kinds of sentences every single day. They are not thinking about grammar rules when they speak, they are thinking about their lives, they are sharing their experiences, they are expressing their reality. This is the most important truth you must carry with you. English is not about perfection, English is about expression. It is about making your thoughts visible to others. When you understand the past, you gain the power to tell your story. You gain the power to share your journey. You gain the power to connect. Imagine meeting someone new. One of the first things they might ask you is, "What did you do today?" They are inviting you to step into the past. They are inviting you to share your experience. And when you answer, you are not just using grammar. You are using your voice. You are using your identity. There is a simple but powerful difference you must understand. There is now and there is before now. Now is this moment. Before now is everything that already happened. When something is finished, it belongs to the past. This is true in every country, this is true in every culture, this is true for every human being. Your past may include your childhood, your school days, your first job, your first success, your first challenge, your first dream. Every one of those moments lives behind you, and English gives you the tool to bring those moments forward and share them with the world. Let us make this real and personal. Think about your morning today. Do not think about rules, think about your life. Maybe you woke up at 6. Maybe you brushed your teeth. Maybe you drank tea or coffee. Maybe you spoke to your family. Maybe you checked your messages. Every one of those actions is complete. Every one of those actions belongs to the past. And when you say them in English, you are simply describing what already happened. You might say, I woke up at 6. I drank coffee. I checked my phone. I spoke to my friend. These are clear. These are natural. These are powerful. Now think about yesterday. Yesterday is no longer here. Yesterday is finished. But your memory keeps it alive. You might remember where you went, you might remember what you learned, you might remember what you felt. You might say, I studied English yesterday. You might say, I worked hard yesterday. You might say, I rested yesterday. These sentences are not just language, they are reflections of your effort, they are reflections of your growth. They show progress, they show movement, they show life. And now, go even further. Think about last weekend. Maybe you stayed home, maybe you visited someone, maybe you watched something that inspired you, maybe you learned something new. When you speak about last weekend, you are using the past naturally. You are showing that those moments are complete. You are helping the listener see your timeline. You are helping them understand your story. This is why you must release your fear. So many learners feel afraid when they hear the word grammar. They feel pressure, they feel stress, they feel like they must be perfect. But perfection is not the goal. Communication is the goal. Understanding is the goal. Confidence is the goal. The past tense is not your enemy. It is your partner. It helps you show who you are and where you have been. It helps you speak with clarity. It helps you speak with strength. Every fluent English speaker you admire started exactly where you are right now. They did not begin with perfection. They began with meaning. They began with simple expressions. They began by sharing small parts of their day. And over time, those small expressions became powerful communication. Fluency is not built in one day. It is built moment by moment, sentence by sentence, memory by memory. You already have everything you need. You already have experiences. You already have memories. You already have stories. English is simply the bridge that allows you to carry those stories forward. When you understand that the past tense is not about rules but about meaning, something changes inside you. Fear disappears. Confidence begins to grow. You stop worrying about being perfect and you start focusing on being clear. And clarity is the true foundation of fluency. From this moment forward, begin noticing your past. Notice what you did this morning. Notice what you did yesterday. Notice what you did last week. Speak it. Even if your sentences are simple, they are powerful. Even if your voice is quiet, it is important. Every sentence you speak builds your strength. Every memory you express builds your fluency. This is where your transformation begins. Not with pressure, but with understanding. Not with fear, but with confidence. The past is not just grammar. The past is your story. And now you are learning how to tell it. Part 2. Past signal words. There is something powerful that happens when you begin to notice time in language. Suddenly, English stops feeling random and it starts feeling clear, logical, and alive. Every sentence carries a hidden signal. Every conversation carries clues, and when you learn to recognize those clues, you unlock one of the most important abilities in English. You begin to understand not just what someone is saying, but when it happened. This is where signal words become your guide. They are small, simple words, but they carry enormous meaning. They quietly tell you that something already happened, something is finished, something lives in memory, and not in the present moment. Imagine someone says to you, "Yesterday I visited my friend." The moment you hear the word yesterday, your brain immediately understands something important. This did not happen now, this did not happen today, this happened before now. The word yesterday is like a door that opens into the past. It prepares your mind, it gives you direction, it tells you where the sentence belongs in time. This is the beauty of signal words. They guide both the speaker and the listener. They create clarity, they remove confusion, they help communication flow naturally. There are many signal words that English speakers use every day without even thinking about them. You will hear words like yesterday, last night, last week, last year, ago, before, earlier, and phrases like in 2020, or when I was young. These words appear everywhere. You will hear them in conversations, in movies, in interviews, in classrooms, and in everyday life. They are not rare, they are not advanced, they are essential. They are part of the rhythm of real English. And when you begin to recognize them, you begin to understand time automatically. Think about the phrase, last night. If someone says, last night I watched a movie, you immediately know that the action is finished. It lives in the past. Or imagine someone says, last year I started learning English. That one phrase, last year, carries so much meaning. It shows the beginning of a journey, it shows progress, it shows effort, and most importantly, it shows time clearly. These signal words act like anchors. They hold the sentence in the correct place in time so that everyone listening understands. Now consider the word ago. This is one of the most powerful and common signal words in English. When someone says, 2 days ago I felt sick, the word ago tells you exactly how far in the past the action happened. It creates distance between now and then. It shows that time has moved forward. It helps the listener visualize the timeline. The same is true when someone says, 5 years ago, I did not speak English. That sentence carries hope, it carries growth, it shows transformation. It reminds us that change is possible. There are also signal words that connect deeply with personal stories. Someone might say, when I was young, I lived in a small town. That phrase opens a window into the speaker's past. It invites the listener into a memory. It creates connection. Or someone might say, earlier today I met an old friend. The word earlier shows that the action is finished, even though it happened recently. It helps organize experience. It helps structure communication. It gives English its beautiful sense of order. One of the most important skills you must develop is listening awareness. This means training your ears to notice these signal words when others speak. When you watch a video, listen to a conversation, or hear someone tell a story, pay attention to words like yesterday, last week, ago, and before. These words are your guides. They help you understand the speaker's timeline, they help you follow the story, they help you stay connected to the message. Over time, your brain will begin to recognize them automatically, and understanding will become faster and easier. But recognition is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you begin to use these words yourself. This is where your confidence grows. This is where your voice becomes stronger. Think about your own life. Think about yesterday. What did you do yesterday? Maybe you studied, maybe you worked, maybe you rested. You can say, yesterday I studied English. Yesterday I worked hard. Yesterday I watched a video. These sentences are simple, but they are powerful. They show clarity, they show confidence, they show ownership of language. Now think about last week. Last week, maybe you learned something new. Maybe you spoke to someone important. Maybe you faced a challenge. You can say, last week, I learned new words. Last week, I spoke to my teacher. Last week, I practiced every day. Each sentence builds your fluency. Each sentence strengthens your voice. Each sentence moves you forward. And now think about your past more deeply. Think about your journey. You might say, in 2020, I decided to improve my English. Or you might say, when I was young, I was afraid to speak English. These sentences are not just grammar. They are expressions of courage. They are expressions of growth. They show how far you have come. They remind you that learning is a journey, and every step matters. It is important to remember that signal words are not your enemy. They are your friends. They help you understand when to use the past naturally. They remove confusion, they provide clarity, they make communication easier. You do not need to memorize long rules. You only need to recognize the signal. When you hear yesterday, you know the action belongs in the past. When you hear last year, you know the action is finished. When you hear ago, you know the action happened before now. The signal word shows you the path. This is how fluent speakers communicate. They do not stop and analyze grammar rules in their minds. They listen for signals. They follow meaning. They trust the flow of language. And you can do the same. Every time you hear a signal word, pause and notice it. Every time you speak, try using one. Slowly, naturally, your brain will build the connection. Understanding will become automatic. Confidence will grow. You are not just learning English, you are learning how to place your life on a timeline. You are learning how to share your memories clearly. You are learning how to tell your story with confidence. Signal words are the bridge that connects your experience to your expression. They help you move from silence to speech. They help you move from confusion to clarity. From this moment forward, begin listening carefully. Notice the signals around you. Notice how often they appear. And most importantly, begin using them. Speak about yesterday. Speak about last week. Speak about your past. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And now you are learning how to guide it through time with clarity and confidence. Part 3: Past's Simple Basics. There comes a moment in every English learner's journey when everything begins to connect, when confusion begins to fade, and when the language starts to feel natural and real. That moment often begins here. This form is the foundation of speaking about your life. It is the tense that allows you to express what you did, where you went, what you felt, and how you lived your experiences. It is not complicated. It is not something reserved for experts. It is something you already understand in your mind because you live it every single day. Every time you remember something that is finished, something that already happened, you are stepping into this powerful part of English. Think about your life. This morning you woke up. That action is finished. Yesterday you spoke to someone. That action is finished. Last week you learned something new. That action is finished. These actions are complete. They have a clear beginning and a clear ending. They belong to the past. And English gives you a simple and powerful way to express these completed actions. You do this by using the past form of the verb. This is the heart of past simple. It shows that something happened and is now complete. It shows that the moment exists in memory, not in the present. When you say, "I worked yesterday," you are doing something very important. You are placing your action clearly in time. You are showing that the work is finished. It is not happening now, it already happened. The listener understands you immediately. There is no confusion, there is clarity, there is confidence. Or when you say, "She called me," you are showing that the call is complete. It happened in the past, it is part of your experience now. Or when you say, "We studied English," you are expressing effort, progress, and action that has already been completed. These sentences are simple, but they are the building blocks of fluency. This tense is everywhere in real life. It lives inside daily conversations, it lives inside stories, it lives inside your personal history. Imagine talking to a friend. They might ask, "What did you do yesterday?" And you might answer, "I worked all day. I came home, I ate dinner, I watched a video." Each sentence you speak becomes a step in your story. Each sentence brings your listener closer to your experience. This is how humans connect. We connect through sharing what happened. We connect through expressing our past. This tense also gives you the power to tell your life story. You might say, I started learning English last year. You might say, I moved to a new city. You might say, I met an inspiring teacher. These sentences are more than grammar. They are pieces of your journey. They show your growth, they show your courage, they show your effort. When you speak like this, you are not just using English, you are owning English. You are making it part of who you are. There is something very important you must understand deeply. This tense always connects to completed actions. When something is finished, when it is done, when it is no longer happening, you use this form. This is the mental framework you must build. Completed action equals past simple. This clarity removes fear. This clarity removes confusion. You do not need to guess. You do not need to panic. You only need to ask yourself one question. Is the action finished? If the answer is yes, this is your tense. Let us make this real and personal. Think about yesterday. Close your eyes and walk through your day in your mind. You woke up, you got out of bed, you washed your face, you ate breakfast, you spoke to someone, you worked, you rested. Every one of those actions is complete. Now express them in English. Say, I woke up at 7. I washed my face, I ate breakfast, I spoke to my family, I worked during the day, I watched a video at night. Do you see what is happening? You are telling your story. You are using English to express your real life. And this is where fluency begins. This is also how confident speakers grow. They do not wait for perfection. They begin with simple truths. They begin with simple sentences. They describe what they did. They describe what they experienced. Over time, those simple sentences become powerful communication. Fluency is not built with difficult words. Fluency is built with clear meaning. Fluency is built with courage. Fluency is built with practice. Learners across the world, from the United States to India, from Europe to South Korea and beyond, all walk this same path. They begin by expressing completed actions. They begin by sharing their past. They begin by building clarity. And slowly, step by step, their confidence grows. They stop translating in their minds. They stop fearing mistakes. They begin speaking naturally. They begin speaking freely. You must also understand that mistakes are not failure. Mistakes are part of learning. Every fluent speaker made mistakes. Every confident speaker struggled at first. What matters is not perfection. What matters is progress. Every time you describe what you did yesterday, you are strengthening your English. Every time you express a completed action, you are building fluency. Every time you speak, you are becoming stronger. There is power in simplicity. There is power in clarity. When you say, I studied English yesterday, you are not just forming a sentence, you are forming your future. You are proving to yourself that you can communicate. You are proving that you can grow. You are proving that you can move forward. From this moment forward, begin practicing this in your daily life. Every day, take a moment to describe your day. Speak it out loud. Say what you did, say where you went, say what you learned. Your sentences do not need to be perfect, they only need to be real, they only need to be honest, they only need to be yours. This is how fluency begins. It begins with one sentence, it begins with one memory, it begins with one voice, and that voice is yours. Part 4. Regular verbs. There is something beautiful that happens when you begin to see patterns in English. Suddenly, the language stops feeling unpredictable and it starts feeling reliable. It starts feeling fair. You begin to realize that English gives you simple tools, tools that work again and again, tools that help you express your life with clarity and confidence. One of the most powerful and friendly tools you will ever learn is the simple and consistent pattern. When an action is finished, when it belongs to the past, Many verbs follow one clear and predictable rule. You add EED, that is all. One small ending, and suddenly you have the power to move your action from now into memory. Think about the word work. Every day, people work. They work in offices, they work in schools, they work in homes, they work toward their dreams. But when the action is finished, when it lives in the past, something changes. Work becomes worked. That small ending carries meaning. It tells the listener that the action is complete. It tells them that this effort already happened. When you say, I worked yesterday, you are not just speaking. You are showing time clearly. You are guiding the listener. You are expressing your experience with confidence. This pattern repeats itself again and again, and this repetition is your strength. Play becomes played. Watch becomes watched. Open becomes opened. These verbs follow the same path. They follow the same logic. They follow the same rule. This consistency is a gift to learners. It means you do not need to memorize thousands of different forms. It means you can trust the pattern. It means you can build fluency faster. When you know the base verb, you already know how to form its past. You simply add ed, and your meaning becomes clear. Now let us bring this into your real life, because English becomes powerful when it connects to your world. Imagine your evening yesterday. Maybe you watch TV. That action is finished. You can say, I watch TV. Maybe someone in your home opened the door. That action is finished. You can say, she opened the door. Maybe children outside enjoyed their time. You can say, they played football. These sentences are natural. These sentences are real. These sentences are the language of everyday life. This is not academic English. This is living English. There is another layer of beauty here, something that many learners do not realize at first. These verbs not only follow a visual pattern, but they also follow a sound pattern. When you add ed, the sound changes slightly depending on the verb. Sometimes the ending sounds soft, like a gentle breath. Sometimes it sounds like a quiet voice. Sometimes it creates an extra syllable. But do not let this worry you. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is awareness. Your goal is confidence. As you listen more, as you speak more, your ears and your voice will naturally adjust. Imagine saying the sentence, I watched a movie. Listen to the ending of watched. It ends softly. Now say, I played football. Listen to played. It flows smoothly. Now say, she wanted to learn. The ending adds a gentle extra sound. Each one is slightly different, but each one follows the same visual rule. Each one carries the same message. Each one shows that the action is complete. The more you listen, the more familiar these sounds will become. The more you speak, the more natural they will feel. This is where pattern recognition becomes your greatest ally. English is not random. English is full of patterns, and when you see the pattern, you gain power. When you recognize that many verbs simply add ed, you unlock hundreds of new sentences instantly. You do not need to hesitate. You do not need to doubt yourself. You can express your past clearly. You can share your experiences freely. Now pause for a moment and think about your own life. Think about yesterday. Think about last week. Think about something you did recently. Maybe you worked. Maybe you studied. Maybe you watched something inspiring. Maybe you opened a new book. Maybe you played a game. These actions belong to you. These actions belong to your story. Now express them. Say, I worked hard. I studied English. I watched a video. I opened my notebook. I played a game. Each sentence strengthens your voice. Each sentence strengthens your fluency. This is how confidence grows. Confidence does not come from memorizing complicated rules. Confidence comes from using simple patterns again and again. Confidence comes from expressing your real life. Confidence comes from realizing that you can communicate clearly. Every time you use a regular verb in the past, you are building a stronger foundation. You are building trust in yourself. You are building momentum. Learners from all around the world share this same experience. Whether you are learning in the United States, in Germany, in India, in South Korea, or anywhere else, this pattern remains the same. This rule remains your ally. This consistency remains your support. English becomes less frightening. English becomes more logical. English becomes something you can control. Now it is time to take ownership. Create your own sentences. Speak about your life. Speak about your experiences. Say, I watched something new. I learned something important. I practiced English. I helped someone. I listened carefully. These sentences are not small. These sentences are powerful. They represent your effort. They represent your growth. They represent your journey. Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait for permission. Your voice is ready now. Your experiences are ready now. Every regular verb you use in the past brings you closer to fluency. Every sentence you speak builds your confidence. Every moment you practice moves you forward. English is not something outside of you. English is becoming part of you. And with every regular verb you use, you are proving to yourself that you can speak, you can express, and you can be understood. Part 5. Irregular Verbs. There is a moment in every learner's journey when they realize that not everything in English follows the same predictable pattern. And at first, this realization can feel uncomfortable. It can feel unfair. It can feel like the ground beneath you is shifting. But here is the truth that will change everything for you. These verbs are not here to stop you. They are here to empower you. They are some of the most powerful, most common, and most important verbs in the entire English language. They appear everywhere. They appear in daily conversations. They appear in stories. They appear in memories. They appear in the language of real life. And when you understand them, you unlock a deeper level of fluency. Unlike regular verbs, these verbs do not simply add ed to show the past. Instead, they change their form completely. This is why they are called irregular. But do not let that word scare you. Irregular does not mean impossible. Irregular does not mean confusing forever. It simply means different, and different is something you can learn. Different is something you can master. Different is something you can make part of your voice. Think about one of the most common verbs in English, the verb go. Every day, people go places. They go to school. They go to work. They go to the store. But when the action is finished, when it belongs to the past, go becomes went. You do not say gut, you say went. So you can say, yesterday I went to work. That one word, went, tells the listener that the action is complete. It places your experience clearly in the past. It gives your sentence strength and clarity. Now think about the verb eat. Eating is part of life. Everyone eats. But when the action is finished, eat becomes ate. You can say, I ate breakfast at 7. That sentence is clear. That sentence is natural. That sentence reflects real life. Or think about the verb see. Every day you see people, places, and things, but when the moment is finished, see becomes saw. You can say, yesterday I saw my friend. That sentence carries connection. It carries experience. It carries meaning. These verbs are not rare. They are everywhere. Come becomes came. Take becomes took. Make becomes made. Find becomes found. Think becomes thought. Tell becomes told. Feel becomes felt. These are not advanced verbs. These are everyday verbs. These are life verbs. These are the verbs people use to describe their experiences, their emotions, their journeys. This is why frequency matters more than memorization lists. You do not need to memorize hundreds of verbs at once. You only need to focus on the most common ones, the ones you will use every day, the ones that express your real life. When you learn verbs like go, eat, see, come, take, make, and find, you are learning the language of real communication. You are learning the language of connection. The secret to mastering these verbs is not memorization through pressure. The secret is learning through life, learning through use, learning through experience. When you connect verbs to your personal memories, they become easier to remember. They become part of your story. They stop feeling like foreign objects and start feeling like familiar tools. Think about yesterday. Maybe you went somewhere. You can say, yesterday I went to the store. Maybe you ate something delicious. You can say, yesterday I ate dinner with my family. Maybe you saw something interesting. You can say, yesterday I saw an inspiring video. These sentences are not exercises, they are reflections of your life. They are expressions of your experience, and every time you use them, you strengthen your fluency. Confidence grows when language becomes personal. Confidence grows when language becomes meaningful. When you say, I went, I saw, I ate, you are not just practicing grammar. You are expressing your reality. You are using English as a tool for connection. You are building your voice. It is important to remember that even native speakers learn these forms step by step. They were not born knowing them. They learned them through listening. They learned them through speaking. They learned them through living. And you are walking the same path. You are building the same foundation. You are growing the same strength. There is no need to rush. There is no need to feel pressure. Mastery happens through repetition and patience. Every time you hear these verbs, notice them. Every time you speak, use them. Every time you remember something from your past, express it. Say, I went. Say, I saw. Say, I ate. Say, I came. Say, I took. These simple sentences are powerful. These simple sentences build fluency. Imagine speaking to someone confidently and saying, I went to a new place last week. I saw something beautiful. I met interesting people. I felt happy. These sentences open doors. These sentences create connection. These sentences allow you to share your world. You are not trying to memorize a language. You are learning to live in it. You are learning to move through your memories and express them clearly. You are learning to transform your experiences into communication. And here is the truth that will carry you forward. You do not need to know every irregular verb to become fluent. You only need to know the most common ones and use them with confidence. With practice, they will become natural. With time, they will become automatic. With courage, they will become yours. Your past is full of stories. Your past is full of experiences. And now you are learning how to express them with strength, clarity, and confidence. Part 6. Negative past. Fluency is not only about saying what happened, real fluency is also about saying what did not happen, with clarity, confidence, and calm. This is one of the most practical skills you will ever learn in English because real life is full of moments where you need to explain, correct, and clarify. Sometimes people misunderstand you. Sometimes you need to say you did not go somewhere. Sometimes you need to say you did not eat something. Sometimes you need to say you did not do an action, even if someone thought you did. When you can express the negative past naturally, you sound more confident, more precise, and more fluent because you are not limited to only positive statements. You are speaking like a real person who can explain life honestly. The structure is simple, and that is what makes it powerful. You use did not, and then you return to the base form of the verb. This is where many learners feel surprised because they think they must use the past form of the verb again. But English does something very clean here. The word did already carries the past meaning, so the verb stays in its base form. This makes your sentence easier to build, easier to remember, and easier to say. You say, I did not go. You do not say, I did not went. You say, she did not eat. You do not say, she did not ate. You say, we did not study. That is the pattern, and once you feel it, you will start using it everywhere. Now bring this into real life because this form is not for tests, it is for communication. Imagine someone asks you, did you go to the meeting yesterday? And you need to be honest and clear. You can say, I did not go. Maybe you were sick. Maybe you had another responsibility. Maybe you simply could not make it. The sentence is short, but it is strong. It is clear. It communicates immediately. Or imagine someone offers you food and asks, did you eat dinner already? You can say, I did not eat yet, or you can say, I did not eat dinner. These sentences sound natural in American English, in British English, and in global English. They are universal in daily conversation, and once you master them, your speaking becomes more flexible and real. Negative past is also a tool for correcting misunderstandings, and this is where it becomes deeply useful. In life, people often assume things. They think you said something, they think you did something, they think you agreed to something. But you need a calm way to correct the story. Imagine someone says, you called me last night, right? But you did not. You can say, I did not call you. That sentence is calm, clear, and respectful. Or imagine a teacher says, you studied yesterday, correct? But maybe you were busy. You can say, I did not study yesterday. That is not a weak sentence, that is a strong sentence. It shows honesty, it shows clarity, it shows control of language. This form is also powerful when you talk about life experiences because life is not only about what you did, life is also about what you missed, what you avoided, what you chose not to do, and what you did not have yet. Many of the most meaningful stories include negative moments. You can say, I did not understand English before. You can say, I did not speak confidently when I was younger. You can say, I did not believe in myself. These sentences are emotional, real, and powerful. They allow you to tell the truth of your journey. And when you can express those truths in English, you are not just learning grammar, you are learning to own your story. Now let us strengthen your confidence through practice in a very practical way. Think about yesterday and make it real. What are 3 things you did not do yesterday? Maybe you did not go outside. Maybe you did not watch TV. Maybe you did not study. Maybe you did not meet friends. Choose real things. Now speak them clearly. Say, I did not go outside yesterday. I did not watch TV yesterday. I did not study yesterday. Notice how simple it feels. Notice how strong it sounds. These sentences build your confidence because they are true to your life and they train your brain to use did not naturally. You can also use a shorter form in real speech and you will hear it everywhere in natural conversation. Many English speakers say didn't, which is just did not, in a shorter, faster form. So instead of I did not go, you will often hear I didn't go. Instead of she did not eat, you will often hear she didn't eat. This is important for listening. When you watch movies, YouTube videos, interviews, or daily conversations, you will hear didn't constantly. When you recognize it, your listening improves. When you use it, your speaking sounds more natural. But even if you choose the longer form at first, that is completely okay. Clarity comes first, natural speed comes later. Now let us talk about one of the biggest mistakes learners make, and we remove it right now. Many learners say, I didn't went, or she didn't ate. This feels logical in their mind because they want to show past twice, but English does not work that way. The past meaning is already carried by did, so the verb must stay in the base form. I didn't go, she didn't eat, we didn't study. This one correction will instantly make your English sound more correct and more fluent. Here is the confidence shift you must remember. Negative sentences are not harder. Negative sentences are not scary. They are simply part of real communication. And when you can use them smoothly, you become a stronger speaker because you can clarify, correct, and explain your life with precision. This is how you sound natural and mature in English. You stop sounding like you only memorized a few positive sentences. You start sounding like someone who can express truth in every direction. Your end goal is simple and powerful. You want to express negative past clearly and naturally. You want to be able to say what did not happen without fear, without confusion, and without hesitation. And you can do that because the pattern is consistent, the structure is clean, and the practice can be based on your own real life. Speak your truth, speak your story, and let your English become a tool that works for you, not a burden you carry. Part 7. Past questions. If you want to sound natural in English, you must be able to do more than tell your story. You must also be able to invite other people into their story. That is what questions do. Questions are the door to connection. Questions are how friendships grow. Questions are how conversations stay alive. And when you learn to ask about the past, you unlock a new level of confidence because you stop being a quiet listener and start becoming an active speaker. You begin to lead conversations. You begin to show curiosity. You begin to sound like someone who belongs in English, not someone who is just practicing it. The most important thing to understand is that English gives you a very simple structure for asking about past events. You use did, then the subject, then the base form of the verb. That is it. Did is the key. Did carries the past meaning, so the verb stays in its base form. This makes your questions clean, clear, and easy to build. You can ask, did you go? Did she call? Did they finish? These are short questions, but they are powerful because they open real conversation and they help you get real information. Now let us make this feel natural. Imagine you are talking to a friend. You want to know about their day. You can ask, did you go to work yesterday? Did you eat dinner at home? Did you watch anything interesting last night? These questions are common in the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere people communicate in English. They are global, they are real, they are practical, and once you learn them, you will start hearing them everywhere. In movies, in podcasts, in interviews, in YouTube videos, you will notice how often people use did questions to talk about past events. It is also important to notice the feeling behind the question. When you ask a past question, you are not only using grammar. You are showing interest. You are showing respect. You are saying, I care about your experience. I want to know your story. That is why learning questions is so powerful for learners, because fluency is not only about speaking, fluency is also about interacting. When you can ask questions, your English becomes social and social English grows faster. Let us build your confidence with a clear mental rule. If you want to ask about a finished action, start with did. Did you go? Did she call? Did they finish? And then remember this important point. The verb must stay in its base form. You do not say, did you went? You say, did you go? You do not say, did she called? You say, did she call? You do not say, did they finished? You say, did they finish? This one rule will instantly make your English sound more correct and more natural. Now take a real-life example. Let us say you are speaking to someone and you want to ask about yesterday. You can ask, did you wake up early yesterday? Did you meet anyone? Did you study English? These questions are simple, but they create a full conversation. And when your friend answers, you can respond naturally. If they say yes, you can follow up. If they say no, you can ask another question. This is how real conversations work. They are not one sentence, they are a flow. They are a dance. And questions keep the dance moving. Past questions are also powerful when you ask about life experiences, because life experiences are where people connect deeply. You can ask, did you ever travel to another country? Did you ever live in a different city? Did you ever feel afraid to speak English? These questions invite stories. They invite emotions. They invite real communication. And when you ask questions like this, you sound confident and mature, because you are not only talking about yourself, you are engaging with the world. Now let us train your speaking like a coach would. Practice asking and answering. First you ask, then you answer. You can even practice alone, because practicing alone builds confidence fast. Ask yourself, did I study yesterday? Then answer, yes, I did, or no, I did not. Ask yourself, did I go outside yesterday? Then answer, yes, I did, or no, I did not. This kind of practice is powerful because it teaches your brain the full pattern. It teaches you how questions and answers connect. It helps you stop translating. It helps you speak automatically. Notice something important in the answers. When someone asks a did question, many answers use did too. If someone asks, did you go? You can answer, yes, I did, or no, I did not. This is extremely common in natural conversation. It saves time, it sounds fluent, it keeps the conversation moving. Even if you also add extra information, the did answer gives you a strong foundation. You can say, yes, I did. I went to the market. Or you can say, no, I did not. I stayed home. This is real conversation. It is simple, it is strong, it is natural. Now let us do conversation practice in a way that feels real. Imagine you are calling a friend. You can ask, did you have a good day yesterday? Did you work a lot? Did you rest? Did you watch anything fun? Your friend answers, and you respond. This back and forth is where your confidence grows. This is where you stop being afraid. This is where English becomes a living skill, not just a lesson. If you make mistakes while practicing, that is normal. Mistakes are not failure. Mistakes are evidence that you are trying, and trying is how fluency is built. The goal is not to speak perfectly, the goal is to speak clearly and consistently. If you can ask past questions confidently, you will be able to connect with people, understand their experiences, and build stronger conversations. The end goal is simple and powerful. You want to confidently ask about past events. You want to be able to say, did you go? Did she call? Did they finish? Without fear, without hesitation, and without confusion. Because when you can ask questions, you become a true communicator. And when you become a true communicator, English stops being something you study and starts becoming something you live. Part 8. Real Conversations. At some point, every English learner realizes something important. Knowing grammar in your head is not the same as using English in your life. You can understand rules, you can read sentences, you can even do exercises, and still feel silent when it is time to speak. That is why real conversation practice is the bridge. Conversation turns grammar into communication. Conversation turns knowledge into confidence. Conversation is where English becomes human. And past tense, especially, is one of the biggest conversation tools you will ever use because so much of human connection is built on sharing what happened, what we experienced, what we felt, and what we learned. Think about how people talk every day in the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and in so many other places. People are always asking about the past. They do it naturally. They do it without thinking. Someone says, "How was your day?" Someone asks, "Where did you go yesterday?" Someone asks, "What did you eat?" Someone asks, "Did you finish your work?" These questions are everywhere. They are in families. They are in workplaces. They are between friends. And when you can respond naturally, you stop feeling like a student and start feeling like a speaker. Now imagine a simple conversation. One person asks, "Where did you go yesterday?" The other person answers, "I went to the market." This is a real conversation. It is short, but it is complete. It has a question, it has an answer, it has past tense, it has life. And the best part is that you do not need fancy vocabulary to do it. You need clear meaning. Another person asks, "What did you eat?" The answer is, "I ate rice." Again, simple. Again, real. Again, useful. These are the kinds of conversations that build confidence fast because they are connected to daily life. Let us go deeper and make it feel even more natural. When someone asks, "Where did you go yesterday?" you can answer in different ways depending on your life. You can say, "I went to work. I went to school. I went to the store. I went to my friend's house." The question stays the same, but your answer changes based on your experience. This is how conversation becomes flexible. This is how you stop memorizing and start speaking. And when someone asks, "What did you eat?" you can say, "I ate rice. I ate noodles. I ate bread. I ate vegetables." You are not just practicing a tense, you are practicing real communication. Now think about real-world scenarios, because your goal is not to speak only inside lessons. Your goal is to speak in real life. Imagine two friends talking after a day. One friend asks, "How was your day?" The other says, "It was good. I worked a lot. I met a friend. I watched a video at night." Then the first friend asks, "What did you do after work?" The second answers, "I went home and I cooked dinner." This is exactly how English conversations happen. They are built with small questions and short answers, one step at a time. Nobody speaks in long, perfect paragraphs in real conversation. People speak in short, clear pieces. And that is why this practice is so powerful for beginners and intermediate learners. Now imagine a family discussion. A mother asks her child, "Did you do your homework?" The child answers, "Yes, I did. I finished it." The mother asks, "What did you learn today?" The child answers, "I learned new words." This kind of conversation happens in homes all over the world. It is natural. It is practical. It helps children and adults share their day. When you can join conversations like this, you start feeling comfortable. You start feeling included. You start feeling confident. Now imagine a workplace conversation. A coworker asks, "Did you send the email?" You answer, "Yes, I sent it." Or you answer, "No, I did not send it yet." A manager asks, "What did you finish today?" You answer, "I finished the report. I completed the task." These simple past conversations are everywhere in professional life. Whether someone works in an office in the United States, a company in Europe, a school in India, or a business in South Korea, the need is the same. People talk about completed actions constantly. When you can do this, you sound more confident and more capable. Now let us train fluency in the most effective way. Mini conversations. Short dialogues that you repeat until they feel natural. This is how you build speaking muscles. This is how you stop overthinking. You do not need to practice one huge conversation. You practice small parts that you can use again and again. Start with a simple pattern. Question plus answer. Then add one more question. Then add one more answer. Slowly, you build a conversation chain. Practice like this. Ask, "Where did you go yesterday?" Answer, "I went to the market." Ask, "What did you buy?" Answer, "I bought fruit." Ask, "What did you do after that?" Answer, "I went home." This chain is simple, but it teaches your brain to move naturally through past tense. It trains your mouth to speak without fear. It trains your ears to listen and respond. You can practice this with yourself too, and it still works. Ask yourself, "Where did I go yesterday?" Answer, "I went to work." Ask yourself, "What did I eat?" Answer, "I ate breakfast at home." Ask yourself, "What did I do at night?" Answer, "I watched a video." This kind of self-practice is powerful because it removes pressure. You can repeat it many times, you can improve your speed, you can build confidence quietly, and when you meet real people, your brain is ready. Here is what matters most. When you speak in real conversations, do not chase perfection. Chase clarity. Chase connection. If your sentences are simple, that is not a weakness. That is strength. Simple English is powerful English because it is clear, it is understandable, it is real. Fluency is not about complicated grammar. Fluency is about smooth communication. The end goal is very clear. You begin using past tense naturally, not like a robot, not like a test, like a real person talking about real life. You ask questions, you answer questions, you share your day, you listen to others, and suddenly, English becomes something you can use anywhere, with anyone, in any country. Because the power of English is not in rules, the power of English is in conversation. Part 9. Storytelling Power. If you want to grow fast in English, there is one skill that changes everything. It is not memorizing long grammar rules, it is not collecting difficult vocabulary just to sound smart. It is learning to tell a story. Stories are the heartbeat of real communication. People connect through stories. Families share stories at dinner. Friends share stories on the phone. Co-workers share stories during breaks. Even strangers share stories when they want to build trust. And here is the most important truth. Almost every story lives in the past. That is why past tense is not just a grammar topic. Past tense is your storytelling power. Think about it. When someone says, "Let me tell you what happened," they are opening a story. When someone says, "I remember when I was young," they are opening a story. When someone says, "Last year, something changed my life," they are opening a story. These moments are common in the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere people speak English. Humans are the same. We remember, we share, we explain, we relive, and the language of that sharing is past tense. Stories build fluency faster than drills because stories force you to use English naturally. A drill might give you one sentence. A story gives you many sentences connected together. A story gives you a beginning, a middle, and an ending. A story makes you describe actions, emotions, people, and places. A story makes you move through time. When you tell stories, you stop thinking like a student and start thinking like a communicator. That shift is powerful. That shift is where fluency grows. Now think about personal stories. These are the easiest and most powerful stories because they belong to you. Nobody can take them from you, nobody can tell them better than you. A personal story can be something simple. You can talk about a day you felt proud. You can talk about a day you felt nervous. You can talk about a time you helped someone. You can talk about a time you made a mistake and learned from it. These stories do not need to be dramatic, they only need to be real. Real stories create real confidence. Childhood stories are also one of the best ways to practice past tense, because childhood is full of memories. Childhood is full of routines, games, school days, family moments, and first experiences. When you talk about childhood, you naturally use past tense again and again. You might say, I lived in a small house. I played with my friends. I walked to school. I loved cartoons. These sentences are simple, but they create a full picture. They create life. They create emotion. And emotion is the secret ingredient in language learning. When you feel something, you remember better. When you feel something, you speak more naturally. When you feel something, your English becomes alive. Life experiences are another powerful story source. Maybe you moved to a new city. Maybe you started a new job. Maybe you learned a new skill. Maybe you faced a difficult time and grew stronger. When you speak about these experiences, past tense becomes your tool for expressing growth. You can say, I started learning English because I wanted a better life. I struggled at first, I felt shy, but I practiced every day, and slowly I improved. That is a story, that is a journey, that is a real human experience. When you can express that in English, you are not only learning language, you are building confidence and identity. Now let us focus on what makes storytelling so powerful for learners. Stories create natural repetition. When you tell a story, you repeat common verbs again and again. You say, I went, I saw, I met, I felt, I learned. These verbs become familiar. They become automatic. Stories also help you learn sequencing words, like then, after that, and finally. Even if your sentences stay simple, the story structure makes your English sound more natural and more fluent. This is why storytelling is one of the fastest ways to build speaking confidence. It is also important to understand that you do not need perfect grammar to tell a story. You need clarity. You need simple structure. You need courage. Many learners wait too long because they want to be perfect before they speak. But stories do not demand perfection. Stories demand honesty. Stories demand connection. And when you speak honestly, people understand you. Even if your English is not perfect, your meaning can still be clear. And clarity is the real goal. Now it is time for practice, because storytelling is a skill you build through doing, not through reading. Choose one short childhood memory. Make it simple. Do not try to create a long, complicated story. Choose something real and small. Maybe a day at school, maybe a game you played, maybe a moment with your family. Now tell it in simple English using past tense. You can start like this. When I was young, I lived in a small town. I went to school every morning. I had a best friend. We played outside after school. We laughed a lot. One day, we played in the rain and we got very wet. My mother was not happy, but I felt free and joyful. That is a story. That is a complete practice. And it does not require advanced vocabulary. It requires your life. Here is another way to practice. Imagine you are telling a story to a friend. Speak slowly, speak clearly, use short sentences, add feelings, say what you did, where you went, and how you felt. Feelings make stories powerful. You can say, I felt nervous, I felt excited, I felt proud. These emotional words help you connect with the listener and also help you remember your language better. Now listen carefully to what happens when you do this. Your English becomes smoother because you are not speaking random sentences. You are speaking connected sentences. Your brain begins to think in meaning, not in rules. You start remembering verbs naturally because they are attached to your memories. This is why stories build fluency faster than grammar drills, because stories are real and real language lives inside real moments. The end goal is simple and powerful. You use past tense to express life. You use it to share your memories. You use it to tell your journey. You use it to connect with people across countries and cultures, because no matter where someone lives, everyone understands stories. And when you can tell your story in English, you are no longer just learning English, you are living it. Part 10. Common Mistakes. One of the fastest ways to grow in English is not by learning more and more new things every day, but by removing the small mistakes that block your confidence. Many learners know a lot, but they still hesitate because they are afraid of being wrong. And that fear often comes from repeating the same beginner errors again and again. The good news is this: most past tense mistakes are not complicated. They are pattern mistakes. They happen because your brain is trying to be logical, but English has its own logic. Once you understand the correct mental pattern, your English becomes cleaner, your speaking becomes smoother, and your confidence rises quickly. A very common mistake happens when learners use the helper did and the past form of the verb at the same time. It looks like this: I did, went. This feels natural to many learners because they want to show past twice, like they are adding extra strength to the sentence. But English does not work like that. The helper did already carries the past meaning, so the verb must stay in its base form. The correct sentence is, I did go. That is the pattern you must train into your mind. Did plus base verb. Once you feel this, a huge part of your past tense becomes easy. You can say, I did not go. You can say, did you go? You can say, yes, I did. In each case, the verb stays in base form because did already holds the past. Now let us make this correction feel strong and simple. If you see did, your brain should immediately think base verb, not past verb, base verb. That is the mental key. Did equals base verb. So you say, did you eat? Not did you ate. You say, I did not eat, not I did not ate. You say, she did not call, not she did not called. You say, they did not finish, not they did not finished. When you build this habit, your English becomes more natural and more correct instantly, and you stop second-guessing yourself in conversations. Another common mistake comes from regular verb patterns. Learners learn the rule of adding ed, and then they try to apply it to every verb. This is a normal learning step. It shows your brain is searching for a pattern. But English has a special group of verbs that do not follow the ed pattern. These are irregular verbs, and one of the most famous is go. Many learners say, I gut. That sounds logical, but it is not correct. The correct past form is I went, so instead of I gut to the market, you say I went to the market. This one correction will make your English sound much more fluent because go is one of the most common verbs in daily conversation. People say went constantly in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere English is spoken. When you use went correctly, you sound more natural immediately. Here is a strong way to train your mind. Separate regular and irregular verbs in your brain, but do it in a simple way. Most verbs follow the ed pattern, and you will use that pattern often. But there are a small group of very common verbs that change form completely. These are the ones you focus on first. Go becomes went. Eat becomes ate. See becomes saw. Come becomes came. Take becomes took. Get becomes got. Make becomes made. Think becomes thought. These verbs appear everywhere. When you learn them through your daily life, not through pressure, they become familiar quickly. And when they become familiar, you stop making the most common mistake of adding ed where it does not belong. Another beginner mistake is trying to build past sentences by using two different past markers. For example, some learners say, yesterday I did went to work, or they say, I didn't went. These are both the same problem. When you use did or didn't, the verb must stay in base form. So you say, yesterday I went to work, or you say, I didn't go. Notice how clean that sounds. Notice how easy it becomes. Past meaning is carried by did and didn't, so the verb stays simple. This is one of the best corrections you can learn because it improves your speaking in questions and negatives instantly. Now let us talk about the emotional side, because language learning is not only about correct sentences, it is also about courage. Mistakes are normal. Mistakes are part of growth. Every fluent speaker made mistakes. Every confident speaker once said things the wrong way. The difference is that they did not quit. They learned the correction, practiced it, and kept speaking. When you make a mistake, it does not mean you are bad at English. It means you are learning. It means you are brave enough to try, and trying is where progress is born. Confidence grows when you learn to correct yourself gently, without shame. If you say, I did went, you can pause and correct. I did go. That simple correction is powerful. It shows self-control. It shows learning. It shows growth. If you say, I gut, you can correct, I went. Every correction is a step forward. Every correction makes your brain stronger. The goal is not to never make mistakes. The goal is to notice them, fix them, and move forward without fear. Here is a practical way to train correct patterns. Take 2 minutes each day and practice short sentences out loud. Say, I went to the store. I did not go to the store. Did you go to the store? Yes, I did. Now change the verb. I ate breakfast. I did not eat breakfast. Did you eat breakfast? Yes, I did. This practice is simple, but it is powerful because it trains your brain to automatically follow the correct pattern. It builds muscle memory, and muscle memory is what creates fluency. The end goal is very clear. You avoid major errors confidently. You do not panic when you speak. You do not freeze when you need to ask a question or say a negative sentence. You understand the mental patterns. Did plus base verb. Irregular verbs have special forms. Regular verbs often add ed. When these patterns become familiar, your English becomes smoother and your confidence becomes stronger. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to improve. And every time you correct one small mistake, you step into a new level of fluency. Part 11. Action in progress. There is a special kind of power in English that many learners do not discover early enough. It is the power to show a moment, not just report an action. It is the power to make the listener feel like they are standing next to you in time, watching your life unfold. This is where English stops sounding like a list of events and starts sounding like a real story. Because sometimes you do not want to say only what happened. Sometimes you want to say what was happening. You want to describe the middle of the moment, the feeling of the moment, the scene of the moment. And that is exactly what past continuous gives you. It helps you describe an action that was in progress at a specific time in the past, not finished instantly, but moving, unfolding, and alive. To understand this deeply, imagine a photograph from the past. Not a video, a photograph. A frozen picture of a single moment. In that picture, people are not completing actions. They are in the middle of them. Someone is smiling, someone is walking, someone is cooking, someone is talking. The moment is captured in the middle, not at the end. That is the feeling of this tense. It is not about the beginning or the end. It is about what was happening at that moment. When you learn to speak this way, your English becomes more expressive. Your stories become more vivid. Your communication becomes more natural. Now let us make the structure simple, because simplicity builds confidence. You use a helping verb, was or were, and then you add the ing form of the verb. That is it. Subject plus was or were plus verb ing. When you say, I was walking to school, you are describing an action that was happening at some point in the past. You are not saying you finished the walk. You are focusing on the process, the movement, the moment. When you say, she was cooking dinner, you are placing the listener inside that kitchen, inside that moment. When you say, they were playing football, you are showing action in progress. When you say, we were watching a movie, you are describing what was happening during that time. This form gives your English a cinematic feeling. It gives your English life. This tense becomes even clearer when you connect it with specific times. Think about the sentence, at 7 p.m. I was studying. Notice how that feels. You are not just saying you studied, you are saying that at a specific time the action was happening. The listener can imagine you at that moment. Maybe you were sitting at a table. Maybe your book was open. Maybe you were tired, but you continued. That one sentence paints a picture. Or think about, yesterday evening I was sitting in my room. That is not a simple report. That is a scene. It invites the listener into your world. It gives context. It creates connection. This is why this tense is so valuable for beginners and intermediate learners across the world, whether they live in the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, or anywhere else. People everywhere talk about actions in progress. People describe moments. People say things like, I was driving when you called. I was sleeping when you messaged. I was working when the meeting started. This is normal English. This is everyday English. When you learn it, you level up quickly because you stop sounding like you only know basic past tense. You start sounding like someone who can describe real moments with detail and emotion. Now let us strengthen your understanding with a simple comparison in meaning. Past simple often tells us what happened as a completed event. Past continuous often tells us what was happening at a particular time. So if you say, I studied yesterday, that is a completed event. But if you say, at 7 p.m. I was studying, you are describing the action in progress at that time. Both sentences are useful, but they create different meaning. One gives the result, the other gives the scene, and being able to choose between them is real fluency. Now it is time for fluency practice, and this is where your confidence grows fast. Think about yesterday and choose 3 different times, like morning, afternoon, and evening. Now describe what you were doing at those times. Keep it simple, keep it real. You can say, yesterday morning, I was getting ready for the day. Yesterday afternoon, I was working or I was studying. Yesterday evening, I was relaxing. Now add one more detail. Yesterday evening, I was watching a movie. Yesterday afternoon, I was talking to a friend. Yesterday morning, I was drinking tea or coffee. Notice what happens when you do this. Your brain starts organizing your life in English. Your voice starts flowing naturally. You stop translating and start describing. Another powerful practice is to describe a single hour in detail. Choose one time, like 7 p.m. Now build a small scene. At 7 p.m., I was sitting in my room. I was listening to music. I was thinking about my day. I was feeling tired, but I was still trying to improve. These sentences are not only grammar practice, they are self-expression. They help you speak about your inner life, not just your actions. And when English becomes personal, fluency grows faster. You might be thinking, what if my sentences are not perfect? That is completely okay. The goal is clarity, not perfection. The goal is to communicate the idea of an action in progress. Your confidence will grow with repetition. Every time you practice describing what was happening, you build a stronger connection between your thoughts and your English. You build trust in yourself. You build speaking strength. And soon, you will notice something amazing. You will begin to hear this tense in real conversations more clearly. You will understand movies better, you will understand stories better, and you will start using it naturally without fear. The end goal is very clear and very powerful. You understand how to describe ongoing action in past time. You can place the listener inside a moment. You can paint a picture with your words. You can express your life with more detail and more emotion. And that is what real English is. Real English is not only about what happened, real English is about what was happening and how it felt and what the moment looked like. Part 12. Was and were. One of the biggest reasons learners feel stuck in speaking is not because they lack vocabulary and not because they lack intelligence. It is often because they do not feel steady with the small building blocks that hold a sentence together. When those blocks feel shaky, your confidence feels shaky too. But when those blocks become automatic, your English becomes smooth. This is exactly why learning was and were matters so much. These two words are small, but they carry a big job. They help you show who is doing the action, and they help you place that action clearly in the past. When you learn them the right way, you stop hesitating, you stop guessing, and you start speaking with calm confidence. The rule is simpler than most learners expect. I goes with was, he goes with was, she goes with was, it goes with was, you goes with were, we goes with were, they goes with were. That is the pattern, and it does not change. In the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere people speak English, this is the same. The words might feel new at first, but the rule is stable and reliable. Once it becomes familiar, it becomes easy, and when it becomes easy, you become faster. Speed is not the goal, but natural speech is. And natural speech comes when you do not have to stop and think about small choices. Here is the clarity that will help you understand why these words exist. Was and were are helping verbs. They support the main verb. They tell us who is connected to the action. They also carry the past meaning. When you say, I was studying, the word was tells the listener that the subject is I and the time is past. The word studying shows the action in progress. When you say, she was sleeping, the word was matches she and places the action in the past. When you say, they were talking, the word were matches they. When you say, we were eating, the word were matches we. These choices are not random, they are part of a clean system. And once you trust the system, you stop feeling nervous. Let us make this practical and real, because real learning happens when it connects to your life. Imagine you are describing yesterday evening. You might say, I was studying at 7 p.m. That sentence feels natural. Now imagine talking about someone else. You might say, she was sleeping when I called. Again, natural. Now imagine talking about a group of people. You might say, they were talking loudly, or you might say, we were eating dinner together. These are the sentences that appear in real-life conversations. They appear in stories, they appear in daily communication, they appear in movies and in real relationships. This is everyday English. Now let us talk about error prevention, because prevention saves you time and protects your confidence. The most common mistakes happen when learners mix the subject with the wrong helping verb. For example, some learners say, I were studying, or they say, they was talking. Those sentences sound wrong to native speakers because the subject and the helping verb do not match. But the solution is not fear, the solution is training. You train the pattern until it becomes automatic. I was, he was, she was, it was, you were, we were, they were. When you repeat this pattern out loud, your brain begins to feel it, your mouth begins to remember it, and then, when you speak, you will naturally choose the correct one without stopping. A powerful way to build automatic fluency is to practice quick responses. You can do this alone and it still works. Ask yourself a simple question, like, what was I doing yesterday evening? Then answer quickly, I was watching a video. Ask yourself, what was she doing? Answer quickly, she was sleeping. Ask yourself, what were they doing? Answer quickly, they were studying. Ask yourself, what were we doing? Answer quickly, we were eating. This kind of practice is not about perfection. It is about building speed and comfort. It is like training a muscle. At first, it feels slow, then it becomes smooth. Another confidence-building practice is creating sentences using all subjects. This is one of the best ways to make the pattern stick in your mind. Choose one action, like studying, and build 7 sentences. I was studying, he was studying, she was studying, it was working. You were studying, we were studying, they were studying. Notice what happens. Your brain begins to associate the subject with the correct helping verb. You are not memorizing a rule anymore, you are building a habit, and habits create fluency. Now let us connect this to real communication again, because fluency is about using English in your life, not just practicing in your head. Imagine your friend asks you, what were you doing when I called? If you feel confident with was and were, you can answer easily. I was cooking. I was driving. I was studying. Imagine you ask someone, what were you doing last night? They answer, we were watching a movie. These are real exchanges. They happen in daily life across all cultures. And when you can use was and were correctly, you sound natural and clear. There is also a quiet confidence that comes from getting small things right. Many learners think only big vocabulary creates fluency, but what actually creates fluency is control. Control of basic structures, control of small choices. Was and were are part of that control. When you use them correctly, your English feels stable. It feels trustworthy. You feel less nervous because you know your foundation is strong. The end goal is simple and strong. You use helping verbs correctly and naturally. You stop guessing. You stop hesitating. You match the subject confidently. You speak smoothly. And once you can do that, everything else becomes easier because you are building English on a strong, steady base. Part 13. Building continuous actions. There is a reason some English speakers sound so smooth when they talk about the past. They do not only tell you what happened, they show you what was happening. They let you feel the movement of the moment. They let you step inside the scene. And that smoothness comes from one simple skill: knowing how to build the ing form of verbs confidently. This may sound like a small detail, but it changes everything. Because once you can form these verbs easily, you can describe real life in a way that sounds natural, clear, and alive. The ing form is the heartbeat of continuous actions. It shows an action in progress. It shows something unfolding over time. And when you combine it with the helping verb, your sentence becomes a clear picture. This is the mental pattern you must own. Helping verb plus ing verb creates ongoing action. That is the core idea. You are not just memorizing a form. You are learning a way to describe life with more detail. Let us begin with the simplest transformation, because confidence begins with simplicity. Most verbs simply add ing. Work becomes working. Play becomes playing. Eat becomes eating. Read becomes reading. Notice how easy and clean that is. You do not need to fight the word, you do not need to overthink, you just add ing and the verb becomes ready to show action in progress. Now you can say, I was working yesterday afternoon. You can say, we were playing football. You can say, she was eating dinner. You can say, I was reading a book. These sentences are not only correct, they are useful, they are real. They are the kind of English you hear in daily conversations across the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and beyond. Now let us talk about spelling awareness, because some verbs change slightly before adding ing. This is where many learners get nervous, but the truth is you only need a little awareness, not fear. Some verbs double the last letter. Run becomes running, sit becomes sitting. That doubled letter is not there to confuse you. It is there because English spelling follows patterns that keep the sound consistent. When you see a short verb like run or sit, the ing form often doubles the final letter, so you get running and sitting. And once you practice these a few times, they stop feeling strange and start feeling normal. Some verbs drop the final e before adding ing. Make becomes making, write becomes writing, take becomes taking. Again, this is not something to stress about, it is simply a pattern. The e disappears, and the verb flows into ing. When you practice it in real sentences, it becomes easier to remember. You can say, she was making tea. You can say, I was taking notes. You can say, he was writing a message. These examples are simple, but they help your brain lock in the correct form. Now bring it into real life, because real-life practice is what turns patterns into fluency. Imagine a normal day. You are reading a book, you are making tea, you are running in the park. These are scenes, these are moments, these are actions in progress. When you speak like this, you sound more natural because you are describing the middle of life, not just the result. You are not only saying, I read a book, you are saying, I was reading a book, meaning you were in the middle of it at that time. That small shift gives your English more depth. Here is an important confidence point. You do not need to master every spelling rule perfectly to speak well. Speaking comes first. Clarity comes first. If you can say the sentence smoothly, you are already winning. Spelling awareness is helpful for writing and for building confidence, but your goal as a speaker is to express the idea of action in progress. So focus on what the form does. It shows an action happening, unfolding, continuing. That meaning is the key. Now let us train your mind with the strongest pattern practice. Choose a helping verb and pair it with an ing verb. For example, I was reading, she was making, they were running, we were watching. This is the ing, helping verb plus ing verb. When you repeat this structure with different verbs, you start speaking automatically. Your brain begins to build sentences without translating. This is how fluency grows. Now it is time for confidence practice, and this is where you truly level up. Build 10 personal sentences based on your real life. Keep them simple. Keep them honest. Think about yesterday. What were you doing at different times? You can say, I was studying in the morning. I was working in the afternoon. I was cooking in the evening. I was talking to my friend at night. I was watching a video before sleep. Now add a few more. I was writing notes. I was listening to music. I was cleaning my room. I was learning new words. I was practicing speaking. These sentences are not just practice, they are your life in English. If you want to make your practice even stronger, add time phrases. At 7 p.m. I was eating dinner. Yesterday evening I was sitting in my room. Last night I was watching a movie. These time phrases make your English more natural because they match how people really speak. They place your action clearly on the timeline. They make your story easier to follow. What you are building here is not only grammar. You are building the ability to describe moments. You are building the ability to paint pictures with words. You are building a voice that can express life with detail and clarity. And once you have this skill, you will notice something beautiful. Your listening improves too. You will start hearing continuous actions in movies and conversations. You will understand scenes better. You will feel more connected to English because it will start sounding familiar. The end goal is simple and strong. You form the structure correctly and confidently. You use the ing form naturally. You combine it smoothly with helping verbs. You describe actions in progress with ease. And when you can do that, your English becomes more human, more fluent, and more alive. Part 14. Describing past moments. Fluency is not only about saying what you did. Real fluency is about making someone feel what you lived. It is the difference between giving information and creating a scene. When you learn to describe past moments, your English changes. Your speaking becomes warmer. Your storytelling becomes clearer. Your words start painting pictures. And that is when people stop hearing you as a learner and start hearing you as a real communicator. This skill is powerful because life is made of moments, and moments are not only actions. Moments include surroundings, sounds, light, people, feelings, and small details that make the memory real. To describe a moment, you step into the middle of it. You do not rush to the ending. You slow down and show what was happening. You might say, I was sitting in my room. That sentence already creates a picture. We can imagine you there, but now you can add the world around you. You can say, the sun was shining, people were walking outside, the street was busy, or maybe the street was quiet. Suddenly, the listener is not just hearing about your past, they are seeing it. They are standing in that moment with you. This is how vivid English works. One beautiful thing about describing past moments is that it makes your speaking easier, not harder. Why? Because you can use simple sentences and still sound expressive. You do not need advanced vocabulary. You need clear images. You need short, real descriptions. For example, you can say, I was sitting in my room, my phone was on the table, my book was open, I was listening to music. That is easy English, but it is powerful English because it is visual. It is human. It feels real. Learners in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere can use this skill because it comes from life, not from complicated grammar. Now let us add emotional expression, because emotions are what make a moment unforgettable. Many learners can describe actions, but they forget to describe feelings. Yet feelings are the heart of communication. When you add feelings, your English becomes deeper. You might say, I was feeling happy, or I was feeling tired, or I was feeling nervous. These sentences are simple, but they are strong because they express your inner world. You are not just telling what happened outside, you are sharing what happened inside. That kind of English creates connection quickly. Imagine a moment from yesterday evening. You were at home. You can describe it like a scene. You can say, yesterday evening I was sitting in my room. The light was soft. I was holding my phone. I was watching a video. Outside, people were walking. Some cars were passing by. I was feeling calm. That is a vivid moment. It feels real because it includes surroundings and feelings. Now imagine a different moment. Maybe you were preparing for something important. You can say, yesterday evening she was feeling nervous. She was checking her notes again and again. Her hands were shaking a little. She was trying to stay calm. These are simple words, but they create a strong picture. This is where visualization training becomes your secret weapon. Before you speak, imagine the scene like a short movie in your mind. Ask yourself, where was I? What was around me? What was the weather like? Who was there? What sounds were present? What was I feeling? You do not need to answer every question. Choose 2 or 3 details and speak them clearly. This practice makes your English more natural because your brain is focusing on meaning and images, not on fear and rules. Now let us do life connection practice, because your goal is not to describe random scenes, your goal is to describe your real life. Choose your evening yesterday and bring it back in your mind. You might have been in the kitchen. You might have been in your bedroom. You might have been outside. Wherever you were, describe it with simple details. You can say, I was sitting on the sofa. The TV was on. My family was talking. I was feeling relaxed. Or you can say, I was walking outside. The air was cool. The sky was dark. People were moving quickly. I was feeling thoughtful. Notice how these descriptions feel alive. Even with beginner English, you are creating a picture. You can also describe a moment at work or school. You might say, I was sitting in class. The teacher was explaining a lesson. Students were writing notes. I was trying to focus. Or you might say, we were working in the office. The phones were ringing. People were walking in and out. I was feeling busy but motivated. These sentences are extremely useful in real communication because they help you describe not only what happened, but what the situation was like. Here is an important confidence message. You do not need to speak fast to sound fluent. You need to speak clearly. Slow, clear, vivid speaking often sounds more fluent than fast, nervous speaking. When you describe moments, you naturally slow down because you are painting a picture. This is good. This builds control. Control builds confidence. Confidence builds fluency. A powerful way to practice is to create a simple structure for yourself. Start with place, then add surroundings, then add people, then add feelings. For example, I was sitting in my room, the sun was shining through the window, people were walking outside, I was feeling happy and peaceful. That is a full moment. That is a complete scene. And it uses simple English. You can repeat this structure with different memories until it becomes natural. The end goal is clear. You express past situations vividly. You describe moments with clarity. You add surroundings and emotions. You create scenes that feel real. And when you can do that, English stops feeling like a subject. It becomes your voice, your storytelling tool, and your way to share your life with the world. Part 15. Interrupted actions. Some of the most natural human sentences in English are not about one action. They are about two actions colliding. One action is moving along and then suddenly something happens and changes the moment. This is real life. This is how days unfold. You are doing something and then your phone rings. You are walking and then it starts raining. You are studying and then someone calls your name. When you learn how to express this in English, your speaking becomes more real, more fluent, and more story-like. You stop sounding like you are listing events, you start sounding like you are describing life as it actually happens. The core idea is simple and powerful. A long action is in progress and a short action interrupts it. The long action is the background. The short action is the interruption. English shows this difference very clearly by using two different past forms together. The long action is described with a continuous form, and the short action is described with past simple. When you put them together, you create a clear timeline that the listener can feel immediately. Imagine this sentence: I was sleeping when you called. That is not just grammar, that is a real moment. Sleep is the long action. It was happening, it was continuing. Then the call happened and interrupted it. The listener can picture it easily. The same pattern works in countless real-life situations. She was studying when the phone rang. Studying is the long action, the phone ringing is the interruption. They were walking when it started raining. Walking was continuing. The rain started suddenly. With these sentences, you are not just telling what happened, you are showing the scene, the timing, and the change in the moment. Let us train your mind with a clear timeline visualization. Picture a straight line. The long action is like a long road. It continues. It fills time. Then, in the middle of that road, a short event appears like a sudden dot. That dot changes the scene. That dot interrupts the flow. This is why English uses two different forms. The continuous form gives the feeling of the long road. The simple form gives the feeling of the sudden dot. When you understand this picture, you do not need to fear the structure. You simply describe what your mind already understands. Now let us make the structure feel easy. Start with the long action in progress. Use was or were plus an ing verb. Then add when. Then add the short action in past simple. That is the pattern you will hear everywhere in real English. I was sleeping when you called. She was studying when the phone rang. We were eating when the lights went out. He was driving when he saw the accident. These sentences appear in daily conversations in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and in many other places because they describe the normal interruptions of life. This pattern is especially useful for storytelling. Think about how people tell stories. They often start by setting the background. Then they introduce the sudden change. I was sitting in my room when I heard a noise. We were talking when someone knocked on the door. They were playing outside when it started raining. These sentences create suspense. They create curiosity. They make the listener want to know more. That is why this skill is not only grammar, it is communication power. Now let us do real-life practice, because practice based on your own life builds fluency faster than practicing random sentences. Think about yesterday or last week. Can you remember a moment when you were doing something and something interrupted you? Maybe you were studying when your friend texted you. Maybe you were cooking when someone called you. Maybe you were watching a movie when the electricity went out. Choose one real memory. Now describe it with this pattern. Keep it simple, keep it clear. For example, I was watching a video when my brother came in. Or, I was walking home when it started raining. Or, I was sleeping when you called me. These are short sentences, but they carry real life inside them. Now strengthen the practice by adding one more detail after the interruption. This makes your story feel complete. You can say, I was sleeping when you called, so I answered slowly. Or, they were walking when it started raining, so they ran to find shelter. Or, she was studying when the phone rang, so she stopped and picked it up. Notice how your English becomes more story-like. It flows, it connects, it feels human. This skill also builds confidence because it gives you a natural way to explain situations clearly. In real life, people often ask why you did not answer, or why you were late, or what happened at a certain time. With this pattern, you can explain easily. I was driving when you called, I was working when you messaged, I was eating when you arrived. These are real answers. They sound natural, they sound fluent, they show that you can describe your timeline clearly. A common mistake learners make is using past simple for both actions, like I slept when you called. That sentence sounds like two separate completed actions, and it loses the feeling of interruption. Another mistake is using continuous for both actions, like I was sleeping when you were calling, which sounds strange in most situations. The clean and natural pattern is this. Long action in progress uses continuous. Short interrupting action uses past simple. When you keep that picture in your mind, your sentences become correct and natural. Here is a powerful confidence message you must remember. You do not need to speak like a textbook. You need to speak like life, and life is full of interruptions. When you can express interrupted actions, your English becomes more realistic because you can describe the way moments truly happen. This is the kind of English that makes conversations smoother and storytelling more engaging. And boo! The end goal is clear. You express interrupted past actions clearly and confidently. You create a timeline with your words. You make your listener understand what was happening and what suddenly happened. You gain storytelling ability. And when you gain storytelling ability, you gain fluency, because fluency grows fastest when language becomes a tool for real human connection. Part 16. Parallel actions. Real life is rarely one action at a time. Most days you are doing two things together without even noticing it. You are eating while watching something. You are walking while thinking. You are studying while listening to music. You are cooking while talking to someone. This is normal human life, in the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere else. And English has a beautiful way to express this reality clearly. When you learn how to describe parallel actions, your speaking becomes more natural because you stop sounding like your life happens in separate boxes. You start sounding like a real person who can describe how moments truly flow. The core concept is simple. Two actions were happening at the same time. Not one action interrupting another. Not one action finished and then another started. Two actions together, side by side, like two streams moving at once. English often uses while to connect them, and it feels very natural in conversation. For example, I was listening to music while studying. That sentence immediately shows multitasking. It shows a real moment. It shows the scene. It feels human. Or, she was cooking while talking on the phone. Again, two actions together. Cooking was happening, and talking was happening at the same time. Or, they were laughing while walking. Both actions were in progress together. The listener can picture it easily. What makes this skill powerful is that it helps you describe daily routines in a way that sounds fluent and relaxed. Many learners can say, I studied, I listened to music. But when you combine them, your English becomes smoother and more advanced without becoming complicated. You can say, I was studying while listening to music. Notice what happens. The sentence becomes one natural flow. It sounds like real speech. It sounds like real life. You are not adding difficult grammar, you are simply connecting two actions that happen together. Now let us connect this to real situations, because this form is everywhere in daily routines. Think about mornings. Many people drink tea or coffee while checking their phone. Many people listen to news while getting ready. Many people talk to family while eating breakfast. These moments can be described easily. I was drinking coffee while checking my messages. We were eating breakfast while talking about the day. He was getting ready while listening to a podcast. These sentences are practical for beginners and also powerful for intermediate learners because they help you speak more naturally in longer, connected thoughts. Parallel actions also appear in family life and social life. Imagine a family dinner. People were eating while talking. Children were laughing while playing. Someone was cleaning while watching TV. These are normal scenes. And when you can describe them, you sound confident because you can express not only actions but the atmosphere of a moment. Your English becomes more descriptive, more vivid, and more connected. Now let us build a strong mental pattern, because this is where fluency becomes automatic. When you want to express two ongoing actions in the past, you use was or were with the ing form for both actions, and you connect them with while. That is the clean pattern. I was listening while studying. She was cooking while talking. They were laughing while walking. This pattern feels simple, and it is simple, but it creates advanced-sounding English because it mirrors how people speak naturally. It is also important to understand the difference between parallel actions and interrupted actions, because learners sometimes mix them. Parallel actions are two actions happening together for some time. Interrupted actions are one long action in progress and one short action that suddenly happens. In parallel actions, both actions are ongoing. In interruptions, one action is a quick event. Keeping this difference in your mind gives you control. Control creates confidence. Confidence creates fluency. Now let us do fluency practice in a way that feels real and personal. Think about a time yesterday when you were multitasking. Maybe you were studying while listening to music. Maybe you were eating while watching a video. Maybe you were walking while talking to a friend. Choose one moment. Now say it out loud in English. I was eating while watching a video. I was studying while listening to music. I was walking while talking to my friend. Each sentence is short, but each sentence builds your speaking muscle. Now build 3 more sentences from your daily routine. You can say, I was cooking while thinking about my day. I was cleaning my room while listening to English. I was traveling while texting my friend. These sentences are not only practice, they are your real life translated into English. And when your practice is connected to your life, you remember faster and you speak with more confidence. To make your speech even smoother, you can vary the order of actions. You can say, I was studying while listening to music, or you can say, while I was studying, I was listening to music. Both are correct, but the first one is more common and more natural for many everyday conversations, especially for beginners. The goal is not to sound fancy, the goal is to sound clear and natural. Here is a confidence boost you need to hear. You do not have to speak long sentences to sound fluent. You need to speak connected sentences. Parallel actions help you connect your thoughts. They help you speak in a flow. They help you sound more natural without adding pressure. And when you can speak like this, you will notice your listening improves too. You will start hearing while sentences in movies, interviews, and conversations. You will understand scenes more clearly because you will recognize the structure quickly. Now take a moment and imagine a simple scene from the past. Maybe a busy evening at home. Someone was cooking while someone else was talking. Children were playing while laughing. The TV was playing while people were eating. These descriptions make English feel alive because they describe real life. And this is exactly what you want. English that feels alive in your mouth, not heavy in your mind. The end goal is clear. You express simultaneous past actions confidently. You describe multitasking. You describe daily routines. You describe family activities. You make your English more natural by connecting actions that happen together. And when you can do that, your speaking becomes smoother, your storytelling becomes stronger, and your fluency grows in the most real way possible. Part 17. Background Scenes. The most powerful storytellers do not rush. They do not jump straight into the main event like they are reading a list. They build a world first. They create a background. They help you feel the place, the atmosphere, the movement, and the life happening around the moment. And English has a beautiful way to do that. When you use this tense for background scenes, your story starts sounding real. Your listener stops hearing words and starts seeing pictures. This is where your English becomes cinematic, not robotic. This is where you move from simply speaking to truly communicating. Think about how real life looks. When you walk into a market, everything is moving. People are talking, vendors are calling out prices, children are laughing, bags are swinging, someone is counting money, someone is choosing fruit. Nobody is frozen, life is in progress. And when you describe this kind of scene in English, you need language that can show movement in the background. That is exactly what this tense does. It allows you to describe actions that were happening around the main event, creating a rich setting before you tell what happened next. Imagine saying, people were talking, children were playing, birds were singing. These short sentences feel simple, but they create a powerful atmosphere. They make the listener feel like they are there. They make the scene feel alive. And once you have this background, you can introduce the main event naturally, like a story. You can say, people were talking, children were playing, and birds were singing when suddenly I heard my name. That sentence is not just grammar. That is storytelling. That is the difference between a dull report and a vivid memory. Background actions set the scene for the main event. This is the core concept. The background is the soft music of the moment, and the main event is the loud sound that makes everyone pay attention. Without the background, the main event feels sudden but empty. With the background, the main event feels real and meaningful. When you build background first, your listener understands the environment, the mood, and the situation. This skill makes you sound more fluent because you are speaking in connected ideas, not isolated sentences. Now let us train this skill the easiest way, with imagination and simple words. Close your eyes and imagine a park. You can describe it like this. People were walking slowly. Children were running around. Some parents were sitting on benches. Dogs were playing near the trees. The wind was blowing gently. Birds were singing above. Notice how easy these sentences are. There is no complicated vocabulary, but the scene becomes clear. If you can describe a scene like this, you are not just practicing English. You are practicing expression. You are practicing clarity. You are building storytelling power. Now imagine a home scene. Maybe it was evening time. You can say, "My family was sitting together. My mother was cooking in the kitchen. My brother was watching TV. I was studying in my room. The house was feeling calm." Again, simple English, but rich meaning. The listener can picture it. This is how people speak in real stories, in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and in so many other places. Stories are universal. The only difference is the language. And now you are learning to do it in English. Storytelling training becomes stronger when you learn to create a scene in layers. Start with the big picture, then add small details. For example, in a market scene, you can begin with the atmosphere. The market was crowded, people were moving everywhere. Then you add sounds, vendors were shouting, customers were asking questions. Then you add motion. Children were running, people were carrying bags. Then you add your personal position. I was walking slowly. I was looking at the fruit. I was trying to decide what to buy. In just a few sentences, you build a world. And once the world is built, the main event becomes easy to tell. Now let us do life practice, because the best practice is always connected to real places you know. Choose one place, a market, a park, or your home. Think about a memory from your life. It does not need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. Now describe the background scene using simple continuous actions. If you choose a market, you can say, people were talking, sellers were smiling, someone was cutting vegetables, someone was weighing fruit, children were playing near their parents. If you choose a park, you can say, people were walking, kids were laughing, birds were singing. If you choose home, you can say, my family was talking, I was resting, the TV was playing quietly. These descriptions build your fluency because they train you to speak in scenes, not just sentences. Emotional engagement matters here too. When you describe a scene, add a feeling. You can say, I was feeling peaceful, I was feeling excited, I was feeling nervous. Feelings connect your English to your heart. And when language connects to your heart, you remember faster. Your brain starts holding the words more naturally because they are attached to a real emotion. This is why imagination is not childish. Imagination is a learning tool. It helps you speak with life. Here is a beautiful truth. When you can describe background scenes, you automatically become better at listening and understanding stories too. You will start noticing how native speakers build scenes. You will hear phrases like, people were talking, we were sitting, it was raining, the music was playing. You will understand the atmosphere before the main action. And because you understand it, you will feel less lost. You will feel more comfortable in English. Do not worry about being perfect. Focus on being clear. Focus on painting a picture with simple sentences. That is the real win. Your background does not need to be long. Even 3 sentences can create a strong scene. People were talking, children were playing, birds were singing. That is already enough to build a world. And once you can build a world, you can tell a story that keeps people listening. The end goal is strong and exciting. You create vivid storytelling backgrounds. You set scenes naturally. You connect language with imagination. You make your English feel alive. And when your English feels alive, your fluency grows faster because you are not just learning words, you are learning how to express life. Part 18. Emotional expression. Fluency is not only about facts. Fluency is about feelings. Because real conversation is not just, I went here, I did this, I finished that. Real conversation is also, I was scared, I was proud, I was nervous, I was excited. When you can express emotions in English, you stop sounding like you are only describing events, and you start sounding like a real human being sharing real life. This is where English becomes personal. This is where English becomes meaningful. And when language becomes meaningful, learning becomes faster because your brain remembers what your heart feels. Many learners avoid emotional sentences because they fear sounding weak or because they do not know how to say feelings naturally. But feelings are not weakness. Feelings are connection. Feelings are communication. In the United States, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere else, people talk about emotions all the time. They say things like, I was feeling stressed yesterday. She was feeling excited about the news. They were feeling nervous before the exam. These are normal sentences. They are useful in friendships, at work, in family life, and in storytelling. When you learn to say emotions clearly, you become a stronger speaker because your English becomes complete. The structure is simple, and that is what makes it powerful. You use was or were, and then you describe the feeling. Many times, people use feeling plus an emotion word. For example, I was feeling sad. She was feeling excited. They were feeling nervous. This form is especially helpful for beginners because it is easy to build and easy to understand. It also sounds natural in everyday speech. Another common way is to say, I was sad or she was excited. Both are correct. But using feeling can sometimes help you show the emotion as something happening inside you, something alive, something real in that moment. It gives your sentence softness and honesty. Now let us make these emotions real, because learning emotions as a list does not help. Emotions live in moments. So think about yesterday. Was there a moment when you felt tired? Maybe you were feeling tired after work or school. Was there a moment when you felt happy? Maybe you were feeling happy when you talked to someone you love. Was there a moment when you felt nervous? Maybe you were feeling nervous before a call, a message, or a meeting. These emotions are part of your life. And when you express them in English, your English becomes your voice, not just your lesson. Emotional expression is powerful in personal stories. Imagine you are telling someone about a difficult day. You can say, I was feeling stressed, so I stayed quiet. Or you can say, I was feeling sad, but I tried to stay strong. These are simple sentences, but they carry truth, and truth makes your English sound natural. Or imagine you are telling a happy story. You can say, I was feeling excited because I got good news, or she was feeling proud when she finished her work. These sentences help your listener understand not only what happened, but how the experience felt. This skill is also important for life experiences and important moments. Think about an exam, an interview, a first day at a job, a travel experience, or a big change in life. People do not only remember what they did, people remember how they felt. You can say, I was feeling nervous before the interview, but I was feeling confident after I started speaking. That sentence shows growth. That sentence shows a journey. That sentence sounds fluent because it is connected, emotional, and human. Now let us build confidence through practice. Because the best way to learn emotional English is to use it in small, real sentences. Start simple. Choose 3 feelings you often experience. For example, nervous, excited, and tired. Now connect them to real situations. You can say, I was feeling nervous before my class. I was feeling excited when I understood a new lesson. I was feeling tired at night. These are easy sentences, but they are very useful. They help you speak about your day naturally, and that is exactly what you need for real fluency. A powerful technique is to combine emotion with action in progress because that is how people really speak. You can say, I was studying and I was feeling frustrated. She was waiting for the result and she was feeling nervous. They were traveling and they were feeling excited. When you do this, you create a complete picture. You show what was happening outside and what was happening inside. This is advanced communication, but it can be done with simple English. You can also use emotional language to explain your choices and your behavior. This is extremely common in daily life. You can say, I did not answer because I was feeling overwhelmed. You can say, I stayed quiet because I was feeling shy. You can say, I left early because I was feeling sick. These sentences help you communicate clearly and politely. They also help you sound more natural because you are giving a reason, not just a fact. Emotional fluency means your language becomes personal. It means you are not just repeating sentences from a book, you are speaking from your life. And when you speak from your life, you become brave, you become consistent, you improve faster. Many learners try to separate language from emotion, but that slows them down. The fastest learners connect language to memory and feeling because memory and feeling make words stick. Now do a short practice that can change your speaking quickly. Think of one important moment from the past. It can be small, it can be yesterday, last week, or last year. Now answer these simple questions in English. What was happening? What were you feeling? Keep it short, keep it honest. For example, I was sitting in my room and I was feeling sad. Or, I was walking outside and I was feeling peaceful. Or, I was studying for a test and I was feeling nervous. These sentences are simple, but they are powerful because they are true. The end goal is clear. You express emotional past experiences with confidence. You can talk about your feelings naturally. You can share personal stories with more depth. You can connect with people across cultures because emotions are universal, and when you can express emotions in English, your English stops being a subject and becomes a real part of your life. Part 19, Questions in Continuous. Real conversations do not only happen with statements. Real conversations grow through questions. Questions show curiosity. Questions show care. Questions keep the conversation moving. And when you learn to ask questions about ongoing past actions, your English starts sounding more natural, more confident, and more human. Because in real life, people do not only ask, "What did you do?" They also ask, "What was happening?" They ask because they want the scene, not just the result. They want the moment, not only the ending. This is why continuous questions are such an important skill for learners in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and everywhere else. The structure is simple, and that simplicity is your strength. You begin with was or were, then you add the subject, and then you use the in form of the verb. That is the full pattern. Was or were plus subject plus verb in ing. When you follow this pattern, your questions become clear and natural. For example, were you sleeping? Was she working? Were they watching TV? These questions focus on actions in progress in the past, and they help you understand what was happening at a specific time or during a specific moment. Now let us make the meaning feel real, because meaning is what makes grammar easy. Imagine you called your friend and they did not answer. Later you talk to them and you ask, "Were you sleeping?" That question is not about a completed action, it is about the situation at the time you called. It is about what was happening in that moment. Or imagine your coworker did not respond to a message. You can ask, "Were you working?" Again, you are asking about the moment. You are asking about the situation. Or imagine you walked into a room and the TV was on. Later you ask your family, Were you watching TV? You are asking about an ongoing action that was happening at that time. This is exactly how English is used in daily life. The first key to success is choosing the correct helping verb, because was and were must match the subject. If the subject is I, he, she, or it, you use was. If the subject is you, we, or they, you use were. So you say, was I talking too loudly? Was he studying? Was she sleeping? Was it raining? But you say, were you sleeping? Were we eating? Were they talking? This pattern becomes automatic when you practice it in real sentences, not when you only read it once. Now let us talk about conversation training, because you are learning this to interact, not to pass a test. Continuous questions are often used to ask about situations, scenes, and moments. They are used when you want to understand what was happening in the background. For example, were you waiting for me? Was she feeling okay? Were they arguing? Was the teacher explaining something? These questions sound natural because they match how humans think. Humans remember scenes, humans remember feelings, humans remember what was going on. A powerful thing about these questions is that they invite detailed answers. If someone asks, were you sleeping? You can answer simply, yes, I was, or no, I wasn't. But you can also add more details if you want. You can say, yes, I was sleeping, so I didn't hear my phone. Or you can say, no, I wasn't sleeping, I was studying. That is real conversation. It is short, it is clear, and it gives meaning. This is how you sound confident. You do not only answer with one word, you give a small, simple explanation. Now let us do real-life dialogue practice, because practice is what builds fluency. Imagine this conversation. One person asks, were you sleeping when I called? The other answers, yes, I was. I was very tired. Then the first person asks, were you feeling okay? The other answers, yes, I was. I just needed rest. That is a real, natural exchange. It uses simple English, but it sounds fluent because it matches real life. Here is another simple dialogue. Someone asks, was she working yesterday evening? The answer is, yes, she was. She was finishing her tasks. Then the next question can be, was she feeling stressed? The answer can be, yes, she was feeling stressed, but she kept going. This is powerful because it shows that continuous questions can also be used for emotions and states, not only actions. It helps you talk about life more deeply, even with beginner-friendly English. Now let us strengthen your confidence with a quick response exercise. This builds automatic fluency. Ask yourself a question and answer quickly, without overthinking. Were you studying at 7 p.m. yesterday? Answer, yes, I was, or no, I wasn't. Was your family eating dinner at 8 p.m.? Answer, yes, they were, or no, they weren't. Were you watching a video last night? Answer, yes, I was, or no, I wasn't. This kind of practice trains your brain to respond naturally in real conversations, which is exactly what you need. It is also important to avoid a common mistake. Some learners try to use did with in like, did you sleeping? That is not correct for this tense. Did is used for simple past questions. Continuous questions use was or were. So you say, were you sleeping? Not did you sleeping? Keeping this clear in your mind will protect your English and make your speaking sound more natural. Confidence building comes from realizing that questions are not something to fear. Questions are your power. When you can ask questions, you can lead conversations. You can understand situations better. You can connect with people more deeply. You stop being silent because you now have a tool to keep the conversation alive. And the best part is that these questions are short and simple, so you can use them even if your English is still growing. The end goal is clear. You confidently ask continuous questions about the past. You can say, were you sleeping? Was she working? Were they watching TV? Naturally and smoothly. You can ask about scenes and situations. You can practice real dialogue. and you can interact like a real English speaker, not just a learner. Part 20. Negative continuous. One of the most underrated skills in English is being able to clearly say what was not happening, because real conversations are full of misunderstandings, assumptions, and quick conclusions. Someone thinks you were ignoring them, but you were not. Someone thinks you were doing something wrong, but you were not. Someone thinks you were sleeping, but you were not. When you can express negative ongoing actions in the past, you protect your meaning, you protect your story, and you speak with more calm confidence because you are not trapped in only positive sentences. You have full control. The structure is simple and steady. You use the subject, then was not or were not, then the in form of the verb. Subject plus was not or were not plus verb in ing. That is the full pattern. I was not sleeping, she was not listening, they were not studying. These sentences feel powerful because they are clear, they stop confusion, they correct misunderstandings, and they help you explain your situation honestly, whether you are speaking in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, or anywhere else. Now let us make the meaning real. Imagine someone calls you and you do not answer. Later they say, "You were sleeping, right?" You can respond clearly, "I was not sleeping, I was working." That sentence does two things. It corrects the misunderstanding and it gives the truth. Or imagine a teacher thinks you were not paying attention. You can say, "I was not ignoring you, I was listening, but I was feeling nervous." That is real communication. It is polite, it is clear, it explains your situation without drama. A big part of fluency is clarity training. Clarity is not about sounding advanced. Clarity is about being understood. And negative continuous sentences are a clarity tool. They help you show that an action was not in progress at that time. Notice the focus. It is about a specific moment. You are not talking about your whole life. You are talking about what was happening or not happening in that moment. For example, I was not sleeping at 7 p.m. I was studying. That is specific. Or, they were not studying yesterday evening, they were playing games. Again, clear and specific. Now let us talk about real-life application, because you learn grammar to live better in English, not to pass a test. Negative continuous is very useful for clarifying situations. If someone says, "You were watching TV when I called," you can say, "I was not watching TV, I was cooking." If someone says, "She was talking about you," you can say, "She was not talking about me, she was talking about the project." If someone says, "They were laughing at you," you can say, "They were not laughing at you, they were laughing at a joke." These sentences help you correct misunderstandings in a calm way. It is also helpful for correcting your own story. Sometimes you want to explain what you were doing, and it is easier to start with what you were not doing. For example, "I was not wasting time, I was trying to learn." Or, "We were not fighting, we were just discussing something." Or, "He was not ignoring you, he was driving." These are common real-life explanations, and they make you sound natural because native speakers use this kind of language often. Now, let us make this easier by focusing on the two choices you must make. First, choose was or were based on the subject. I, he, she, it uses was not. You, we, they uses were not. Second, choose the ing verb that fits your meaning. That is it. So you say, "I was not sleeping, he was not working, she was not listening, it was not raining, you were not studying, we were not waiting, they were not talking." When you practice this pattern, your brain stops hesitating because the system becomes familiar. A common mistake learners make is forgetting the ing form. They might say, "I was not sleep," or "she was not listen." Those are not correct. After was not or were not, you need the ing verb, sleeping, listening, studying, watching, working. This is a simple fix. Your sentence becomes correct and smooth instantly when you remember the ing form. Now let us do fluency practice, because practice is where confidence grows. Think about yesterday and choose 3 times, like morning, afternoon, and evening. Now say one sentence about what you were not doing at that time, and then add what you were doing. Keep it simple. For example, yesterday morning, I was not relaxing. I was getting ready for the day. Yesterday afternoon, I was not watching videos. I was working. Yesterday evening, I was not going out. I was staying home. This kind of practice is powerful because it trains your mind to speak clearly and completely. You can also practice with misunderstandings, because that is where this skill shines. Imagine someone says something incorrect about you and you correct it politely. You can say, I was not ignoring you, I was busy, or I was not sleeping, I was studying, or we were not late on purpose, we were waiting for the bus. These sentences give you control over your message. They help you feel confident in conversations because you can correct the story without becoming emotional or confused. Confidence training is also about believing that you deserve to speak clearly. Many learners stay quiet because they fear conflict or mistakes, but clarity is not conflict. Clarity is respect. When you say, I was not doing that, you are not being rude, you are being honest, you are giving the correct information. And that is normal communication in every culture. The end goal is strong and practical. You express negative ongoing past actions clearly. You can clarify situations. You can correct misunderstandings calmly. You can explain what you were not doing and what you were doing instead. And when you can do that, your English becomes balanced, confident, and truly useful in real life. Part 21. Before another past. Sometimes English feels confusing for one simple reason. You are not only talking about the past, you are talking about 2 different past moments, and they did not happen at the same time. One happened first, and the other happened later. In real life, this happens all the time. You slept, but before that you finished your work. You arrived, but before that she left. The movie started, but before that they ate. When you try to explain these situations with only simple past, your meaning can become unclear. People may understand you, but the order can feel messy. That is why English has a special tool that brings calm and clarity. It helps you show which past action happened earlier. The core concept is simple and powerful. One action was completed before another past action. Think of it like 2 steps on a timeline. Step 1 happened first, step 2 happened later. Both are in the past, but one is earlier in the past. This is not about making English harder, this is about making English clearer. When you learn this, your speaking becomes more organized, your storytelling becomes more professional, and your listener understands your timeline without confusion. Let us do mental timeline training, because your brain learns fastest when it can see the meaning. Imagine a line. On the left side is an earlier moment, on the right side is a later moment. Both are in the past. The earlier moment is the action that was completed first. The later moment is the action that happened after. For example, first you finished your work, later you slept. So the timeline is finished work, then slept. English gives you a clear way to express that order so your listener does not have to guess. Now the structure is very steady. Subject plus had plus past participle. That is the key. I had finished, she had left. They had eaten. The word had stays the same for all subjects. I had, you had, he had, she had, we had, they had. That simplicity is a gift for learners. You do not need to change the helping verb. You only focus on the past participle form of the main verb. Finished, left, eaten, arrived, started. Once you practice it, it becomes natural. Let us look at the examples and feel the meaning inside them. I had finished my work before I slept. This sentence tells a clear story. First, the work was completed, later, sleep happened. The word before helps, but the structure makes the order very strong. She had left before I arrived. first she left, later I arrived. If you say, she left before I arrived, that can also be okay in many situations, but using had left makes the timeline extra clear, especially when the story is longer or when there is possible confusion. They had eaten before the movie started. First, they ate. Later, the movie started. The sentence becomes clean and easy to understand. This is extremely useful in real-life application. Think about times when you need to explain the order of events clearly. Maybe you missed a call. You can say, I had already left home when you called. Maybe you were late. You can say, the bus had already gone when I reached the stop. Maybe you want to explain why something happened. You can say, I was tired because I had worked all day. That sentence feels natural and clear. It shows that the working happened earlier and the tired feeling came after. This is the kind of English people use in real conversations in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere else. Now let us talk about why this builds fluency. Fluency is not only about speaking fast, fluency is about speaking clearly with correct meaning. When you can control time and order, you sound more confident because your stories make sense. You stop sounding like you are jumping around. You start sounding like you are guiding the listener through your timeline step by step. That is real communication. A common mistake learners make is using simple past for everything and hoping the listener understands the order. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it creates confusion, especially when the story includes many actions. For example, if you say, I finished my work and I slept, the listener might think these actions happened one after the other, but the connection is not very clear. If you say, I slept after I finished my work, it becomes clearer. But when you say, I had finished my work before I slept, it becomes very strong and very organized. It shows the earlier past action clearly, and your listener feels the timeline instantly. Now let us do fluency practice in a simple, powerful way. Choose two actions from your real life. One happened first, and one happened later. Keep it basic. For example, first you ate breakfast, then you went to work. You can say, I had eaten breakfast before I went to work. Or, first you finished studying, then you watched a video. You can say, I had finished studying before I watched a video. Or, first you took a shower, then you left home. You can say, I had taken a shower before I left home. These sentences are simple, but they train your brain to control order. Now take it one level deeper. Explain two past events that happened close together, where the order matters. For example, you arrived somewhere, but the person was already gone. You can say, I arrived, but she had already left. This is very common in real English. The phrase had already is a strong signal that the action happened earlier. Another example is, the meeting started, but I had not arrived yet. Again, clear order. Again, natural English. Confidence grows when you realize this tense is not a scary rule, it is a storytelling tool. It helps you speak about life with clarity. It helps you explain why things happened. It helps you show cause and effect in the past. And once you can do that, your English sounds more mature, more accurate, and more confident. The end goal is clear. You understand how to express earlier past actions clearly. You can describe two events in the correct order without confusion, you can explain life situations smoothly, and you can tell your story in a way that makes people listen and understand you easily. Part 22. Had structure. One of the biggest relief moments in English learning happens when you realize something important. Not everything has a long list of changes. Not every grammar form is full of confusing rules. Some structures are simple, consistent, and powerful, and once you learn them, you feel like you can finally breathe. That is exactly what happens with had. Had is one of the most beginner-friendly helping verbs because it does not change for different subjects. It stays the same. It stays steady, and that steadiness gives you confidence. The universal rule is beautiful and simple. Had works with all subjects. I had, you had, he had, she had, it had, we had, they had. No special changes, no extra forms, no guessing. This is why learners around the world, whether in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, or anywhere else, can learn it quickly and use it naturally. It is one of those grammar tools that feels logical and supportive, not stressful. Now let us connect had to meaning, because meaning is what makes structure stick. Had helps you show an earlier action in the past, often completed before another past moment. But in this lesson, the focus is the structure itself, so your brain learns the pattern without fear. Subject plus had plus past participle, that is your formula. And once you own that formula, you can build clear sentences that sound strong and fluent. Let us look at simple examples and feel how consistent they are. I had studied English, she had completed her work, they had gone home. Notice something important. The subject changes but had stays the same. That is your anchor. The only thing that changes is the main verb form after had, which must be the past participle. Studied, completed, gone. This is where learners sometimes hesitate, but the confidence trick is to keep your attention on had first. If you get had correct, you have already built half of the sentence. Then you simply choose the past participle form of the verb you need. Now let us build your confidence even more by practicing with all subjects. This is not about memorizing like a robot, this is about training your mouth and your brain to feel the rhythm. You can say, I had studied English. You had studied English. He had studied English. She had studied English. It had worked well. We had studied English. They had studied English. When you do this, something changes inside you. You stop thinking of grammar as a hard subject. You start feeling it as a speaking pattern. And speaking patterns are easier to remember than rules. This structure becomes even more powerful when you use it for real-life communication. Imagine you are explaining your day. You can say, I had completed my work before I relaxed. Imagine you are explaining a situation. You can say, she had gone home before I arrived. Imagine you are talking about learning progress. You can say, I had studied English for months before I started speaking confidently. These sentences sound mature and organized, and they are built from one steady base. Had plus past participle. Now let us talk about confidence training, because many learners fear the past participle form, especially with irregular verbs. But you do not need to fear it. You need a smart strategy. Start with the most common verbs you use in daily life. Go becomes gone, eat becomes eaten, see becomes seen, do becomes done, take becomes taken, write becomes written. These appear constantly in conversation and storytelling. And when you attach them to had, your English becomes more precise. They had gone home, I had eaten already, she had seen it before, we had done our homework. Even if you only master a small group first, your English will improve quickly because those verbs appear everywhere. Another way to make it easier is to practice with regular verbs too, because regular past participles are often simple. Work becomes worked. Play becomes played. Study becomes studied. Finish becomes finished. So you can say, I had worked all day, she had played football, we had studied for the test, they had finished their work. These feel smooth, because the participle looks like the past form for regular verbs. That simplicity helps beginners feel safe and confident. Now do a practical exercise that builds real fluency. Choose one verb and create sentences with every subject. Start with study. I had studied English. You had studied English. He had studied English. She had studied English. We had studied English. They had studied English. Now switch the verb to go. I had gone home. You had gone home. He had gone home. She had gone home. We had gone home. They had gone home. This kind of repetition is not boring when you understand what it is doing. It is building automatic speech. It is training your brain to stop translating. It is making your mouth comfortable with the pattern. Now bring it into your own life, because personal sentences build memory faster. Think about yesterday or last week and create a few honest sentences. I had completed my work before dinner. I had cleaned my room before I rested. She had finished her tasks before she left. They had gone home before it got late. These sentences are simple, but they sound confident because the structure is strong and clear. Here is something important to remember. You do not need to use this form in every sentence. English is flexible, but when you need to show earlier order clearly, had is your best friend. And even when you are not focusing on order, learning this structure is still valuable because it builds your grammar foundation and makes your English sound more accurate when you choose to use it. The end goal is clear. You confidently build the correct structure. You feel safe using had with all subjects. You stop hesitating, you create sentences smoothly, and once this structure becomes natural, your past tense speaking becomes more organized, more fluent, and more powerful. Part 23. Past participle forms. There is a point in English learning when you start feeling more powerful, not because you learned thousands of new words, but because you learned how to control the words you already know. And one of the strongest control skills is knowing past participle forms. These forms help you build clear sentences that sound organized, mature, and natural. They help you speak about earlier actions, life experiences, and completed events with confidence. Many learners fear past participles because they think it means memorizing huge lists. But the truth is, you do not need a massive list to start speaking well. You need the most useful ones, you need practice in real sentences, and you need a memory strategy that works like real life. Let us begin with the simplest part, because confidence grows when the start feels easy. Regular verbs are usually simple in past participle form. For most regular verbs, the past participle looks the same as the past form. Work becomes worked. Play becomes played. Finish becomes finished. Open becomes opened. Watch becomes watched. So when you build sentences, you can use these easily without stress. You can say, they had finished the work. You can say, I had watched that video. You can say, she had opened the door. These are clean, simple, and correct. For regular verbs, your brain already knows the pattern, so do not overthink it. Now let us talk about irregular verbs because this is where learners often feel nervous. Irregular verbs do not follow the ed pattern and their past participles can look different. But here is the good news. You do not need to learn every irregular verb right now. You only need high-frequency verbs that appear in daily conversation. And once you learn them through use, they stop feeling like irregular. They start feeling familiar. Some of the most useful irregular past participles are gone, eaten, seen, and taken. These verbs show up constantly in real English. People say, I have seen that movie. She has taken the bus. They have eaten already. In the earlier past form, you can say, I had seen that movie. She had taken the bus. They had eaten before the meeting. These sentences appear naturally in conversations in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and everywhere else. Let us look closely at the practical examples because examples are the bridge between grammar and real communication. I had seen that movie. That sentence is useful when you want to explain that your experience happened earlier. Maybe someone invited you to watch the movie and you want to say you already knew it. She had taken the bus. That sentence is useful when you explain how she traveled before something else happened. They had finished the work. That sentence is useful in school, office life, and daily tasks because finishing tasks before something else happens is a common story. The more you practice these examples, the more natural they become. Now here is the memory strategy that changes everything. Learn through use, not memorization. This means you do not sit with a list and try to force your brain to remember. You choose a small group of high-frequency verbs and you use them in your own sentences every day. Your brain remembers what it uses. Your brain forgets what it only sees once. So the goal is to build a habit of using participles in real speaking practice. Here is a simple way to do it. Pick 5 verbs that are common in your life. For example, go, eat, see, take, and finish. Now create one sentence for each. I had gone home before it got late. I had eaten breakfast before work. I had seen that video before. I had taken the bus yesterday. I had finished my task before dinner. These sentences are not fancy, but they are strong. They train your mind to connect meaning with form. After a few days, you will not need to remember gone or eaten. You will simply know them because they become part of your speaking. Now let us talk about how to grow this skill without pressure. Do not try to learn 50 participles at once. Learn 10 that you truly use. In real conversations, a small group of verbs appears again and again. Go, come, do, make, get, take, give, see, eat, drink, write, read. If you build participle confidence with these, your English will improve quickly. The goal is practical fluency, not perfect knowledge of every verb in the language. One reason participles feel hard is because learners mix the past form with the participle form, especially with irregular verbs. For example, some learners might say, I had went, which is not correct. After had, you need the past participle, so you say, I had gone. Some learners might say, I had ate, but you need the participle, so you say, I had eaten. This is why practice matters. The more you use the correct forms in real sentences, the less you make these mistakes. Mistakes do not mean you are weak, mistakes mean you are learning. But practice helps you correct the pattern faster. Now do a quick fluency exercise that builds automatic control. Say these sentences out loud slowly, then repeat them again with more speed. I had seen it, she had taken it, they had finished it, we had gone home, I had eaten already. When you repeat, do not rush. Focus on clarity. Focus on feeling comfortable. Comfort is more important than speed. When you feel comfortable, speed comes naturally later. Now bring it back to your own life, because real learning becomes stronger when it becomes personal. Think of one small story from your week where order matters. Maybe you reached somewhere but it was already closed. You can say, I arrived but the shop had closed. Maybe you missed someone. You can say, I called but she had gone out. Maybe you are not hungry because you already ate. You can say, I was not hungry because I had eaten earlier. These are real sentences that people use every day. When you can say them confidently, your English becomes more accurate and more natural. The end goal is clear. You use past participles correctly. You stop guessing. You build confidence with the most useful regular and irregular forms. You learn through use, not memorization. And when you own these forms, your ability to speak about the past becomes more powerful, more organized, and more fluent. Part 24. Event Sequences. Life is not random. Even when your day feels messy, your actions still happen in an order. You wake up, then you do something, then something else happens, and suddenly the day is over. The problem for many English learners is not that they cannot talk about the past. The problem is that their story sounds confused because the order is unclear. The listener may understand the words, but the timeline feels mixed. That is why learning how to describe event sequences is so powerful. It helps you speak with structure. It helps you explain what happened first, what happened next, and why something happened. When you can control sequence, your English starts sounding organized and confident. The core concept is simple. Life events happen in order, and this tense helps clarify that order when you talk about two past actions. It shows that one action was completed before another past action happened. It is like giving your listener a map. Without the map, they may still reach the destination, but they feel lost. With the map, they understand the journey clearly. And clear communication is what builds real fluency. Look at a simple example and feel how it creates order. I had eaten before I went to school. That sentence is very clear. First, eating happened. Later, going to school happened. If you only say, I ate and I went to school, it is still okay, but the sequence is not as strong. When you say, I had eaten before I went to school, your listener immediately understands the timeline. Another example is, she had studied before the exam. That is logical. Studying happened earlier. The exam happened later. Another example is, they had prepared before the meeting. Preparation happened first, the meeting happened after. These sentences are common in real English because people often explain how they got ready before an event. Now let us connect this to storytelling training because storytelling is one of the fastest ways to build fluency. Stories are not only about what happened, stories are about how events connected. When you describe events step by step, your listener stays with you. Your story feels smooth, and you feel confident because you are not rushing. You are guiding. Imagine telling a simple story about your morning. You can say, I had taken a shower before I left home. I had eaten breakfast before I got on the bus. I had checked my bag before I walked out the door. Notice how calm and clear this sounds. The sequence is easy to follow. It feels organized like a real speaker. This skill also helps you develop logical thinking in English. Many learners can say actions, but they struggle to express cause and sequence. Cause and sequence are what make your speech strong. For example, you can say, I was not hungry because I had eaten earlier. The reason you were not hungry is connected to the earlier action. Or you can say, she felt confident because she had studied well. Again, the feeling is connected to the earlier action. This is advanced communication, but it can be done with simple English. And that is the kind of fluency you want. Not fancy words, but clear logic. Now let us make it practical for real life, because sequence is everywhere. Think about work and school. People explain sequences all the time. I had prepared my notes before the presentation started. We had discussed the plan before we made the decision. They had completed the task before the deadline arrived. These are natural sentences in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and in many other places because organization and timing matter everywhere. When you can speak like this, people trust your communication more because your timeline makes sense. A helpful way to practice is to think in pairs. Choose two actions from your life, one earlier and one later. Then connect them with before. For example, I had finished my homework before I watched TV. I had cleaned my room before my friend came. She had called me before I left. They had eaten before the movie started. When you practice in pairs, your brain learns to see sequence automatically. You stop guessing which action came first because you are training your mind to place events on a timeline. Now let us do a short step-by-step practice that feels real. Think of one important event, like a meeting, a class, an exam, a trip, or a family gathering. Now ask yourself, what did you do before that event? Maybe you studied. Maybe you prepared clothes. Maybe you cooked something. Maybe you traveled. Now describe it. I had studied before the exam. I had prepared my clothes before I went out. I had cooked dinner before my guests arrived. I had charged my phone before I left home. These sentences are simple, but they show sequence clearly. They show you can express order like a confident speaker. Now imagine you are telling a story to a friend, and you want to make it clear. You can build a smooth sequence using 3 steps. First, describe the earlier action with had. Second, describe the later action with simple past. Third, add a small result or feeling. For example, I had studied before the exam, so I felt calm. She had prepared before the meeting, so she spoke confidently. They had eaten before the movie started, so they enjoyed it without distraction. Notice how natural these sentences sound. They are not complicated, but they are rich with meaning. Some learners worry they will sound too formal if they use this tense. But the truth is, people use this naturally when they want to clarify order. You do not need to force it everywhere. You use it when the sequence matters, when the listener might be confused, or when you want to sound more precise. It is like turning on a light in your story. You do not need the light all day, but when you need it, it helps you see clearly. The end goal is clear. You can explain sequences with confidence, you can describe life events step by step, you can express cause and order naturally, and when you can do that, your English becomes stronger, clearer, and more fluent, because your listener can follow your story without any confusion. Part 25. Past perfect questions. If you want to sound confident in English, you can not only tell stories. You also need to ask the kind of questions that help you understand someone else's story. And sometimes, the questions you need are not about one past event, they are about the order of events. They are about what happened first, before something else happened. This is where questions with had become a powerful tool. They help you ask about earlier past events clearly, and when you can ask clearly, you can communicate clearly. That is real fluency. The structure is simple and consistent. You start with had, then you add the subject, then you use the past participle. Had plus subject plus past participle. That is it. Had you finished your work? Had she left already? Had they arrived on time? These questions are not complicated, but they sound strong because they show you understand time and sequence. They show you can talk about real life in a logical way, and people in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and everywhere else use this kind of question when they want to understand what happened first. Now let us make the meaning real, because meaning is what helps you speak without fear. Imagine you arrived home and your friend says, "Sorry, I missed you." You might ask, "Had you already left when I came?" That question shows you are talking about the earlier action. Leaving happened before arriving, so you want clarity. Or, imagine your team had a meeting and someone was late. You might ask, "Had you arrived on time, or had the meeting already started when you came?" These are real situations. They happen every day. And when you can ask questions like this, you stop being confused in conversations. You start controlling the conversation with clarity. These questions are also common in friendly daily communication. Let us say someone looks tired and you want to understand why. You can ask, "Had you slept well last night?" Or, if someone looks relaxed, you can ask, "Had you finished your work before you came here?" These questions show care and curiosity. They are not only grammar, they are social tools. They help you connect with people naturally. Now focus on a key confidence point. Had does not change with the subject. That makes this easy. Had I, had you, had he, had she, had we, had they. It stays the same, so you do not waste energy trying to remember different forms. You only focus on the verb after had, and that verb must be the past participle. Finished, left, arrived, eaten, gone, seen, taken. When you understand that, your questions become smooth. Let us look at the examples again, but with short, natural answers, because real conversation needs both. Had you finished your work? Yes, I had. No, I hadn't. Had she left already? Yes, she had. No, she hadn't. Had they arrived on time? Yes, they had. No, they hadn't. Notice how short and natural the answers are. English speakers often answer like this, especially in fast conversation. But you can also add a simple extra sentence for clarity. Yes, I had. I finished it before dinner. No, I hadn't. I was still working. Yes, she had. She left early. No, she hadn't. She was still there. These extra details make your English richer and more confident. Now let us do conversation practice with real-life situations, because that is how you build speaking muscles. Imagine you are talking to a friend about yesterday. You can ask, "Had you eaten before you went out?" Then your friend answers, "Yes, I had. I ate at home." Or maybe, "No, I hadn't. I ate later." Imagine you are talking to someone about travel. You can ask, "Had you visited that place before?" And they might answer, "Yes, I had. I went there last year," or "No, I hadn't. It was my first time." These questions are extremely useful because they help you ask about experience and sequence in a natural way. Here is another practical scenario. You missed a call and now you are talking about it. Someone asks, "Why didn't you answer?" You can answer with sequence and clarity. You might say, "I couldn't answer because I had left my phone in another room." Now the other person might ask, "Had you seen my message before you left?" That is a natural question. It helps them understand the order. The message came and leaving happened, and they want to know which happened first. Confidence building is not only about grammar accuracy. It is also about the feeling of control. Many learners stay silent because they feel they cannot manage time in English. They feel stuck. But when you learn to ask these questions, you gain control over the timeline. You can ask about what happened first. You can ask about whether something was already done. You can ask about whether something happened before another moment. That control makes your speaking calmer and more confident. Now let us do a quick practice that trains automatic speaking. Ask yourself these questions out loud and answer them quickly. Had you eaten before you left home yesterday? Yes, I had. Had you finished your work before you slept? No, I hadn't. Had your friend called you before you went outside? Yes, they had. Had your family eaten dinner before you came home? No, they hadn't. This practice is simple, but it builds speed and confidence. The goal is not perfection. The goal is comfort. One common mistake learners make is using the past form instead of the past participle, like, had you went. That is not correct. After had, you need the participle, so you say, had you gone. Another mistake is forgetting that had comes first in the question. You do not say, you had finished, in formal question form. You say, had you finished? In real spoken English, people sometimes use a rising tone like, you had finished, but for strong and clear practice, learn the clean structure first. The end goal is clear. You ask questions confidently about earlier past events. You can use had plus subject plus past participle naturally. You can ask and answer in real conversation situations, and when you can do that, your English becomes more interactive, more fluent, and more powerful, because you are not just telling your story, you are also understanding other people's stories with clarity. Part 26. Past, perfect, negative. There is a special kind of misunderstanding that happens in real life, and it happens everywhere, in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and beyond. People assume something was already done. People assume you already knew. People assume you already arrived. Then you have to explain calmly, no, it wasn't done yet. No, I didn't see it. No, they didn't arrive. When you can express that kind of meaning clearly in English, you stop feeling stuck. You stop feeling like you have to explain too much. You can say one strong sentence and the listener understands immediately. That is the power of the negative form here. The core purpose is simple. You want to express an action that had not happened before another past moment. This is not just grammar, this is clarity. This is the language you use when something was incomplete, when something did not happen yet, when something was missing at that time. The structure is steady and consistent, which is great for beginners and also useful for intermediate learners. Subject plus had not plus past participle. That is the full pattern. I had not finished, she had not seen, they had not arrived. Had does not change for subjects, so you do not waste energy remembering different forms. You can focus on meaning and speaking. Let us look at the examples and feel the real life inside them. I had not finished my work. This sentence is useful when someone thought you were already done, but you were not. It shows that at that time in the past, the work was still incomplete. She had not seen the message. That is a very common situation in modern life. Someone sends a message and expects an answer, but she did not see it yet at that time. They had not arrived yet. This is also very common. Someone was waiting, an event was starting, but they were not there by that past moment. When you use yet, it makes the meaning even clearer that the action was still not completed at that time. Now let us connect it to real-life application, because this is where your English becomes useful. Imagine you went to a meeting and someone asked, "Did you send the email before the meeting started?" You can say, "I had not sent it yet." That sentence is short, honest, and clear. Or imagine someone says, "Why didn't she reply?" You can say, "She had not seen the message." Or imagine your friend says, "We started without them." You can say, "They had not arrived yet." These sentences help you explain incomplete actions without sounding confused. This form is also perfect for explaining why something happened. For example, "I was stressed because I had not finished my work." That sentence has logic, it has cause, it has sequence. Another example, "She was upset because she had not heard the news." Another example, "We left early because we had not received confirmation." These sentences sound mature, but they are built from simple pieces, and this is exactly what you want. High-value English with simple building blocks. Now let us talk about confidence and common patterns, because learners often worry about sounding too formal. But in real English, people often shorten had not to hadn't, especially in speaking. You might hear, "I hadn't finished my work." "She hadn't seen the message." "They hadn't arrived yet." This sounds natural and smooth. For learning, it is good to know both. Had not is clear and strong. Hadn't is natural and conversational. You can use either depending on your comfort and the situation. One common mistake learners make is using the past form instead of the past participle after had not. For example, "I had not went" is incorrect. The correct form is "I had not gone." Another example, "She had not saw" is incorrect. The correct form is "She had not seen." This is why practice matters. The structure is simple, but the verb form must be correct. The good news is that you do not need to learn every participle at once. You only need the most common ones first, and you practice them in sentences that match your life. Now let us do a fluency practice that builds real speaking skill. Think about a past moment when something was not completed. It could be yesterday, last week, or last month. Maybe you were late because your work was still not done. Maybe you missed a message because you did not see it. Maybe you went somewhere but the person did not arrive yet. Choose one situation and describe it with one clear sentence. "I had not finished my work, so I stayed late." "She had not seen the message, so she didn't reply." "They had not arrived yet, so we waited." These sentences are short, but they are powerful because they describe real life clearly. Now build 3 more sentences from your own routine, because repetition with meaning creates confidence. You can say, "I had not eaten yet, so I was hungry." "We had not started yet, so we were waiting." "He had not prepared, so he felt nervous." Again, notice how natural these are. This is how people really speak. It's not about complicated vocabulary, it's about correct timing and clear meaning. Here is a helpful mindset to keep. This form is not about being perfect, it is about being understood. When you can say something did not happen yet at that time, you stop over-explaining. Your listener stops guessing. You feel calmer. You feel more in control. And that control is what makes you speak more confidently. The end goal is clear. You express the negative form confidently. You can explain incomplete actions in a calm, clear way. You can correct misunderstandings naturally. You can describe situations with order and logic. And when you can do that, your English becomes more accurate, more fluent, and more trustworthy in real conversations. Part 27. Duration before past. There are moments in life when the important part is not only what happened, but how long it was happening before something else happened. Because time has weight, time has effort inside it. 2 minutes feels different from 2 hours, 10 minutes feels different from 10 years. And when you learn to express duration in English, your stories become richer and more accurate. You stop sounding like you only report events. You start sounding like you understand time, effort, patience, and pressure. This is exactly where past perfect continuous becomes a powerful tool, especially for learners who want real communication, not just grammar rules. The core concept is simple. An action was continuing before another past moment. The action started earlier, it continued for some time, and then another past action happened or a past moment arrived. So you are describing the ongoing action and its duration, not just the fact that it happened. Think about this sentence. I had been studying for 2 hours before dinner. The most important information is not only studying, the most important information is the 2 hours. The duration shows effort, it shows time, it shows what your day felt like. That is why this form is so useful in real life across the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and everywhere else. Now let us make the structure feel easy and steady. Subject plus had been plus verb ing. That is the pattern. I had been studying, she had been working, they had been waiting. Had does not change, which is great for beginners. Been also stays the same. So the only thing you change is the subject and the ing verb that describes the action. This form sounds long at first, but once you practice it, it becomes smooth, like a natural rhythm. I had been studying, she had been working, they had been waiting. You are building a sentence that carries time inside it. Let us bring the examples to life so you can feel how natural they are. I had been studying for 2 hours before dinner. That sentence shows a clear timeline. Studying started earlier, it continued for 2 hours, and then dinner arrived. She had been working all day before she rested. That sentence shows effort and tiredness. Working continued for a long time, and then rest came later. They had been waiting for a long time. That sentence is common in real conversations because waiting is something people often talk about, especially when they feel tired or frustrated. The phrase for a long time shows duration clearly even when you do not say an exact number. Now let us do time awareness training, because this is the heart of the skill. Duration words are your best friends here. For 2 hours, for 3 days, for a week, for months, for a long time, for a few minutes. These phrases connect your action to time, and time is what makes the meaning strong. Without duration, your sentence becomes smaller. With duration, your sentence becomes a real experience. For example, I studied before dinner is fine, but I had been studying for 2 hours before dinner feels different. It feels heavier. It feels more real. It shows the effort that happened before the next event. This form is powerful in daily life because people often need to explain why they felt a certain way. You might say, I was tired because I had been working all day. That sounds natural and clear. You might say, she was annoyed because she had been waiting for so long. You might say, they were excited because they had been preparing for weeks. These sentences connect duration to emotion, and when your English can connect time to emotion, your communication becomes more human. Now let us connect this to real-life situations that you can use immediately. Think about studying, working, traveling, waiting, practicing English, cleaning, exercising. These actions often have duration. You can say, I had been practicing English for 30 minutes before I went out. We had been traveling for hours before we reached the hotel. He had been exercising for a few weeks before he saw results. She had been cooking for an hour before the guests arrived. These sentences feel like real life because they show effort and time. They also help you speak more naturally about your routine and experiences. Here is an important clarity point for beginners and intermediate learners. This form is used when the focus is on the continuation and the duration before another past moment. If your focus is only on completion, you may use a different form. But when you want to highlight how long, how continuous, how tiring, or how persistent something was, this form is perfect. It is not about using it everywhere. It is about using it when duration matters. Now let us do fluency practice in a simple way that builds confidence fast. Choose 3 actions from your past week that took time. Maybe you studied, maybe you worked, maybe you waited. Now add a duration phrase. Then connect it to a later past moment. For example, I had been studying for 1 hour before I slept. I had been working all day before I came home. I had been waiting for 20 minutes before the bus arrived. These sentences train your brain to think in timelines, not just in isolated actions. Some learners feel nervous because the form looks long. but do not let length scare you. Long does not mean hard, it only means you have more pieces, and each piece has a simple job. Had shows it is earlier past. Been shows it was continuing. The end verb shows the action in progress. The duration phrase shows how long. When you see it like that, the structure becomes logical, and logical language becomes easier to use. The end goal is clear. You understand how to express duration before a past moment. You can use subject plus had been plus verb ing smoothly. You can add for and a time phrase naturally. And you can make your English richer and more accurate by expressing not only what happened, but how long it was happening before something else happened. Part 28. Continuous duration. There is a kind of English that sounds mature without using big words. It sounds mature because it carries time inside it. It carries effort. It carries a journey. And when you can express long, ongoing duration in the past, you stop sounding like someone who only describes short actions. You start sounding like someone who can talk about real life, real growth, and real long-term experiences. This is powerful for beginners and for intermediate learners because it helps you speak about your life in a deeper way, and it helps you explain your progress clearly to people in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and anywhere else. The core purpose is deep mastery of expressing ongoing duration, not just what happened, but how long it continued. Because long actions shape our lives. Learning English is not one small action. It is months, years, practice, effort, and patience. Living somewhere is not one moment. It is a long experience. Talking for hours is not a single sentence. It is a scene filled with emotion, connection, and time. That is why this form is so useful. It helps you speak about long efforts and journeys like a real person, not like a grammar student. Look at these examples and feel the meaning. I had been learning English for 1 year. That sentence is strong because it shows a long effort. It shows you were not just learning for 1 day, it was continuing over time. She had been living there for 5 years. That sentence shows a long experience, a life chapter. They had been talking for hours. That sentence shows a long conversation, maybe a deep one, maybe an emotional one, maybe a serious one. In all these sentences, the power is in the time phrase, for 1 year, for 5 years, for hours. The duration is the heart of the message. Now let us make the structure feel comfortable again, because comfort creates confidence. The pattern is subject plus had been plus verb ing, and then you often add a for phrase to show the length of time. I had been learning for 1 year. She had been living there for 5 years. They had been talking for hours. You can also use other time phrases like for months, for a long time, for many years, for 2 weeks. The structure stays the same, and that is the beauty. Once you learn the rhythm, you can use it again and again. Life application is where this becomes real English, not just practice. People use this form to explain long journeys and long effort, especially when they want to show why they feel a certain way or why something happened later. For example, I was confident because I had been practicing for months. She was tired because she had been working for weeks without rest. They were close friends because they had been living in the same neighborhood for years. These sentences connect time to results. Time creates results, and when you can express that connection, your English becomes more meaningful. Now let us talk about your English learning journey specifically because this is the perfect place to use this form. Many learners want to tell people their story, but they do not know how to explain the duration naturally. You can say, I had been learning English for 1 year before I started speaking confidently. You can say, I had been practicing every day for months before I noticed improvement. You can say, I had been watching English videos for weeks before my listening became better. These sentences show patience and progress. They help you speak about growth in a way that feels honest and inspiring. Confidence practice is simple and it should be personal because personal practice sticks. Think about your own journey with English. Even if you feel your level is low, your effort still matters. Now choose one true sentence about duration. You can say, I had been learning English for 6 months, or I had been trying to learn English for years, but I did not practice daily, or I had been practicing speaking alone for weeks. These sentences are not only grammar, they are your identity as a learner. They help you tell your story with pride. Now take it one level deeper. Add a reason or a result, because that is how real people speak. You can say, I had been learning English for 1 year, so I felt more confident in conversations. You can say, she had been living there for 5 years, so she knew the area very well. You can say, they had been talking for hours, so they were emotionally tired but happy. When you add a simple result, your sentence becomes a complete thought, and complete thoughts are the foundation of fluent speech. A common mistake learners make is forgetting that after had been, the verb must be ing. Some people say, I had been learn English. That is not correct. It should be learning. Another mistake is mixing up the time phrase. Keep it simple. Use for with a length of time. For 1 year, for 5 years, for 2 hours, for a long time. That is enough. You do not need complicated time language to sound fluent. You need clear time language. Now let us do a short speaking drill that builds speed and comfort. Say these sentences out loud, slowly, then a second time with more flow. I had been learning English for 1 year. She had been living there for 5 years. They had been talking for hours. We had been working for months. He had been training for weeks. Now replace the sentences with your own life. I had been learning English for months. I had been practicing speaking for weeks. I had been watching English videos for days. When you practice like this, your brain learns the rhythm, and the rhythm becomes natural speech. This form is also emotionally powerful because it honors effort. It gives language to patience. It gives language to the quiet work you do when nobody sees it, and that matters. Because learning a language is not instant, it is a long journey. When you can speak about that journey clearly, you feel stronger and you sound stronger. That confidence changes how you show up in English conversations. The end goal is clear. You express long, ongoing past actions confidently. You describe long efforts and journeys naturally. You can talk about your English learning journey with clarity and pride. And when you can do that, your English stops being only a subject you study and becomes a story you can tell. Part 29. Cause and Result. Some people think fluency is speaking fast, but real fluency is speaking clearly. It is being able to explain not only what happened, but why it happened. Because life is full of cause and result. You feel tired, and there is a reason. You feel nervous, and there is a reason. Someone looks happy, and there is a reason. When you can explain reasons naturally in English, your speech becomes more human, more logical, and more confident. And one of the most powerful tools for explaining cause in the past is the past perfect continuous, because it helps you show ongoing effort or ongoing action that led to a result. The core purpose is simple. You want to explain the cause of a past situation, not just one small action, but something that was happening for a period of time before a past result appeared. This is why the past perfect continuous is so perfect here. It holds duration and effort. It holds the background pressure that created the final feeling or situation. That is real communication, and people use this in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and everywhere else, because humans always explain why they feel the way they feel. Look at the examples and notice how natural they sound. I was tired because I had been working all day. That sentence is clear. The result is tired. The cause is working all day. The cause happened over time, not in 1 second. That is why the structure fits perfectly. She was nervous because she had been preparing for the exam. Again, the result is nervous. The cause is preparing for the exam over time. They were happy because they had been practicing. The result is happy. The cause is ongoing practice. These sentences do not sound like grammar exercises. They sound like real life because real life has effort behind emotions. Now let us build your logical communication training, because this is what makes your English sound mature. The pattern is simple. First, say the result, then connect it with because, then say the cause using had been plus verb ing, result plus because plus had been plus verb ing. You can keep the sentences short and simple, and they will still sound strong. I was tired because I had been working. She was nervous because she had been studying. They were happy because they had been practicing. You can add time phrases like all day, for weeks, for hours, for months, but you do not have to. Add them when you want to make the cause stronger and clearer. Now let us make it feel real with situations you actually experience. Think about a time you felt tired in the past, maybe after school, after work, after travel, after cleaning, after a long day outside. Now say the result and the cause. I was tired because I had been walking for hours. I was tired because I had been working all day. I was tired because I had been studying late at night. These are real sentences. You can use them with friends, coworkers, teachers, and family. They help people understand you better, and they help you feel understood, which is important when you are learning a new language. Now think about nervousness, because nervousness is common, especially for learners. You might say, I was nervous because I had been preparing for the interview. Or, she was nervous because she had been thinking about the results. Or, we were nervous because we had been waiting for an answer. These sentences show emotion plus reason, and that combination is powerful because it makes your English sound honest. It makes your English sound personal. Happiness is also a beautiful emotion to express with cause. Many learners can say, I was happy, but they struggle to explain why. This tool makes it easy. I was happy because I had been practicing and I finally improved. They were happy because they had been working hard and they achieved the goal. She was happy because she had been learning English and she could understand a movie. These sentences sound motivating because they show growth, they show effort, they show reward. That is what people love to hear. Now let us do real-life fluency practice in a way that trains your mouth and your mind. Choose 3 emotions from yesterday or last week. For example, tired, nervous, and proud. Now create one sentence for each with because and a clear cause. I was tired because I had been working all day. I was nervous because I had been thinking too much about the test. I was proud because I had been practicing speaking every day. These sentences do not need big vocabulary. They need clear meaning, and you can say them out loud again and again until they feel natural. Here's a key mindset that will make this easy. Do not think of this as a tense. Think of it as a reason builder. It is a tool that helps you explain why. When you view it as a tool, your fear drops. You stop trying to be perfect. You start trying to be clear. And clear English is the goal. Now let us add one more level that makes you sound even more natural. In real speech, people often use short answers and then add the reason. For example, someone asks, "Why were you so tired?" You answer, "I was tired because I had been working all day." Someone asks, "Why was she nervous?" You answer, "She was nervous because she had been preparing for the exam." Someone asks, "Why were they so happy?" You answer, "They were happy because they had been practicing." This question and answer style is perfect practice because it prepares you for real conversations, not just writing exercises. A common mistake learners make is using the wrong form after had been. Remember, after had been, you need the ing verb. Working, preparing, practicing, waiting, studying, thinking. Do not say, "I had been work." Say, "I had been working." Keep it simple and steady. Another mistake is forgetting that the result is in the past too. You say, "I was tired," not "I am tired," when you are telling a past story. That is an easy fix. Just remember you are describing a past situation and its past cause. The end goal is clear. You express causes naturally. You explain why past feelings and situations happened. You communicate logically without sounding robotic. You can tell your story with reasons and results. And when you can do that, your English becomes stronger, more mature, and more real. Because you are not only speaking English, you are expressing life in English. Part 30, Full Past Mastery. There is a moment in every learner's journey when something shifts. You stop feeling like English is a set of rules that controls you, and you start feeling like English is a tool you control. You do not panic when you talk about yesterday. You do not freeze when you explain a memory. You do not feel lost when you tell a story. You simply speak. That is what full past mastery looks like. It is not perfection, it is ownership. It is the ability to express your life clearly, with calm confidence, in a way people can understand in the USA, in Europe, in India, in South Korea, and anywhere else you go. Full past mastery means you can use all the past forms as real communication, not as grammar homework. Past simple helps you speak about completed actions, the main events of your story. Past continuous helps you describe what was happening in the background, the scene, the moment, the atmosphere. Past perfect helps you show which action happened earlier when there are two past actions, so your timeline becomes clear. Past perfect continuous helps you express duration and effort before a past moment, so your story has depth, time, and cause. When you can blend these naturally, you do not sound like you are translating from your first language. You sound like you are speaking from your mind. Integration training begins with one truth. You do not choose a tense because of a rule, you choose it because of meaning. If you want to say what happened, you use past simple. If you want to say what was happening, you use past continuous. If you want to show what happened before another past event, you use past perfect. If you want to show something continuing for a period of time before a past moment, you use past perfect continuous. That is it. 4 tools, 4 meanings. When you connect them to meaning, you stop overthinking and start speaking. Now let us bring it into real life, because real life storytelling is where everything becomes smooth. Imagine you are telling someone about a moment when your English changed. You can say something like this: "I had been learning English for months, and I was practicing every day. One evening I was sitting in my room and I was listening to a video. Suddenly I understood the sentence without translating. I felt proud because I had worked very hard." Notice what happened. Past perfect continuous shows the long effort before the moment. Past continuous shows the scene at that moment. Past simple shows the key event that happened. Past perfect shows the earlier work that explains why the pride was real. This is how fluent speakers tell stories. They do not announce grammar, they simply use the right tool for the right meaning. Here is another example that feels like daily life. I had been working all day and I was feeling tired. At around 7 p.m. I was cooking dinner when my friend called me. I answered and we talked for a while. I told her I had finished my work late, so I was behind on everything. Then I ate quickly and went to sleep. In that story, past perfect continuous shows the long action that caused tiredness. Past continuous shows the action in progress when the call happened. Past simple moves the story forward with clear events. Past perfect helps you explain earlier completion, so the timeline stays clean. This is not advanced English, this is real English, built with simple sentences. Now it is your turn to activate fluency, because fluency becomes real when your story becomes yours. Choose a simple personal story with 4 parts. First, a long effort or long situation. Second, a scene at a specific moment. Third, one main event that changed something. Fourth, one earlier event that explains why it mattered. Keep the vocabulary easy. Keep the sentences short, but keep the meaning clear. For example, you can talk about learning, work, travel, family, school, or even a small moment like missing a bus or meeting a friend. Here is a simple story structure you can copy. Start with duration. I had been practicing English for weeks. Then set the scene. One day, I was walking outside and I was listening to English audio. Then give the main event. I understood a full sentence and I smiled. Then explain the earlier reason. I felt happy because I had tried many times before and I did not quit. When you practice stories like this, you train your brain to use past forms naturally, without stopping to think about grammar terms. Confidence transformation happens when you realize you can express full past experiences clearly. Not only small actions, but sequences, background scenes, reasons, feelings, and effort. You can explain what happened, what was happening, what happened first, and what had been happening for a long time. This is a complete timeline. This is full communication. And when you can do that, you do not fear conversations anymore. You start enjoying them. Fluency activation is simple, but it needs repetition. Tell your story out loud 3 times. The first time, speak slowly. The second time, speak with more flow. The third time, speak as if you are talking to a friend. Do not aim for perfect grammar. Aim for clear meaning. If you make a mistake, correct it calmly and continue. That is how real speakers grow. The goal is not to perform. The goal is to communicate. And here is the final truth that makes everything easier. You do not need to think about rules when you speak. You only need to think about time and meaning. What happened? What was happening? What happened before? What had been happening for a duration? When you focus on meaning, your brain chooses the correct tool more naturally, and you start speaking with confidence. The final end goal is clear. You own past tense fully and confidently. You can tell your life story with order, emotion, and clarity. You can explain your experiences naturally. You can speak without fear. And when you can speak about the past with comfort, you unlock something bigger than grammar. You unlock your voice in English. Part 31. Present and Past Similarities. Many learners think present tense and past tense are 2 different worlds, like 2 separate languages. But the truth is much kinder than that. Present and past are built on the same ideas, the same sentence bones, and the same communication purpose. The only thing that changes is time. And when you truly understand that, fear starts to disappear. You stop treating tenses like a math problem. You start seeing them like a simple choice you make to tell the truth about time. This is important for beginners, and it is powerful for intermediate learners too, because once you see the similarities, you learn faster, you make fewer mistakes, and you speak with more confidence. Let us start with the biggest similarity. Both tenses talk about real life. Both tenses help you express actions, routines, facts, feelings, plans, and stories. English is not trying to make you suffer. English is trying to help you communicate clearly. Present tense answers the question, what happens now or usually? Past tense answers the question, what happened before now? The structure of meaning stays the same. You still have a subject, you still have a verb, you still have an object or extra information. You still build a complete idea. The only change is the time signal in your mind. Think about how natural this is in your life. Right now you say, I wake up early. Yesterday you say, I woke up early. The sentence is the same message, just different time. Right now you say, I eat breakfast at 7. Yesterday you say, I ate breakfast at 7. Right now you say, I go to work. Yesterday you say, I went to work. When you look at it this way, you start realizing something calming. You already know how to build sentences. You are not learning English from zero, you are only shifting time. Another similarity is that both tenses use time words to make meaning clear. In the present, you hear words like every day, usually, often, sometimes, now, today, this week. In the past, you hear words like yesterday, last night, last week, ago, earlier, in 2020, when I was young. These words act like signals. They tell your brain which time you should speak from. So the skill is the same. Listen for the signal word, then choose the correct time. That is how fluent speakers do it. They do not calculate grammar, they follow time signals naturally. Now let us talk about the similarity between present simple and past simple, because these are the most common forms. Present simple is used for routines and facts. Past simple is used for completed actions. But the sentence shape is very similar. You use the subject and the verb. The difference is only the verb form and the time meaning. For example, present simple, I work in a school. Past simple, I worked yesterday. Present simple, she calls her mother every day. Past simple, she called her mother yesterday. Present simple, we study English at night. Past simple, we studied English last night. You can feel that the structure is familiar. It is the same sentence path. You are just walking it in a different time. Here is another beautiful similarity. Questions and negatives work with helping verbs in both tenses. In present simple, you often use do or does for questions and negatives. Do you like coffee? Does she live here? I do not know. He does not understand. In past simple, you use did for questions and negatives. Did you go? Did she call? I did not go. She did not call. The pattern is similar, helping verb first, then subject, then base verb. That similarity is huge because it means once you understand the question pattern in the present, learning the past question pattern becomes easier. Your brain just swaps the helping verb. It is like changing shoes, not changing your entire body. Now, let us talk about the similarity between present continuous and past continuous, because these two are also close cousins. Both forms talk about an action in progress. The difference is time. Present continuous means the action is happening now or around now. Past continuous means the action was happening at a moment in the past. The structure is very similar too. Present continuous uses am, is, are plus ing. Past continuous uses was, were plus ing. Look how similar this feels. Present, I am studying now. Past, I was studying at 7 p.m. yesterday. Present, she is cooking right now. Past, she was cooking when I called. Present, they are playing outside. Past, they were playing outside when it started raining. Notice what stayed the same. The ing verb stayed the same. The idea of progress stayed the same. Only the helping verb changed and the time changed. This is why learners should stop fearing past continuous. If you can say I am doing, you can learn I was doing. Another similarity is how both present and past help you create stories with background and main events. In the present, you can describe what is happening in your life. In the past, you can describe what was happening in your life. The skill is the same. You paint a picture for the listener. For example, present story. I am sitting in my room and I am listening to music. Past story. I was sitting in my room and I was listening to music. The feeling is the same. The only difference is whether the picture is happening now or happened before. Now, let us go a little deeper into a similarity that builds advanced fluency. Both tenses can express cause and result. In the present, you might say, I am tired because I am working a lot these days. In the past, you might say, I was tired because I had been working all day. Again, English is helping you communicate logic. You are connecting events, actions, and feelings. Whether present or past, the goal is the same. Make your listener understand why something is true. Another important similarity is that both present and past are used constantly in real conversation, not only in classrooms. People in every region use these tenses to talk about daily life. In the USA, someone might say, I work from home. Yesterday I worked late. In Europe, someone might say, I take the train every day. Last week I took a different route. In India, someone might say, I study at night. Yesterday I studied very late. In South Korea, someone might say, I practice English every morning. Last month, I practiced with a friend. Different places, same human need. People talk about now and before now all day long. This is why learning similarities matters. It makes you feel connected and capable. Now let us do a simple practice that makes your brain feel these similarities. Choose 3 daily actions. For each action, say one present sentence and one past sentence. For example, present, I eat breakfast at 7. Past, I ate breakfast at 7. Present, I go to work. Past, I went to work. Present, I watch videos at night. Past, I watched a video last night. When you do this, you train the skill of time shifting. This is one of the best fluency skills you can build because it helps you speak naturally without stopping. Here is the confidence message you need to keep. You are not learning 2 separate systems. You are learning one system with 2 time settings. Present and past share the same sentence bones, the same need for clarity, and the same purpose of communication. The more you focus on similarities, the faster you learn because your brain stops treating past tense like a stranger. It starts treating it like a familiar friend wearing a different outfit. And that is the end goal. You understand that present and past are connected. You can shift time smoothly. You can build sentences, ask questions, and express meaning without fear. When you see the similarities clearly, you stop feeling stuck, and you start speaking with a calmer, stronger voice. Part 31. Present and Past Differences. The biggest difference between present tense and past tense is not the grammar on paper. The biggest difference is the picture in your mind. Present tense is the camera pointed at now, or at what is generally true in your life. Past tense is the camera pointed at before now, at something already finished in time. When learners mix these two, their English can sound confusing, not because they are not smart, but because the listener cannot follow the timeline. So the goal is simple: make time clear. When time becomes clear, your sentences become calm, and your confidence grows fast. Present tense is used when the time is connected to now, today, these days, or a regular habit. It is the tense of routines, facts, repeated actions, and general truths. You say, I work here. She studies English. We live in this city. They play football on weekends. Even when you talk about something temporary that is happening around now, you still stay in present. You say, I am learning English these days. She is working on a project this week. Past tense is different because it lives in finished time. Yesterday is finished, last week is finished, 2 hours ago is finished. So you say, I worked yesterday, she studied last night. We lived there in 2020, they played football last weekend. The difference is not just vocabulary, the difference is the time zone your mind is speaking from. Signal words also behave differently, and this is one of the clearest ways to separate present and past. Present tense likes words that feel current or repeated, like today, now, right now, every day, usually, often, sometimes, this week, these days. Past tense likes words that feel finished and behind you, like yesterday, last night, last week, ago, earlier, in 2015, when I was young. If you train your ear to catch these signals, you will naturally pick the correct time without stress. When someone says yesterday, your brain should immediately move to past. When someone says every day, your brain should immediately move to present. This simple listening skill can upgrade fluency for learners in the USA, Europe, India, South Korea, and everywhere else because real conversations are full of time signals. Now let us talk about verb form differences, because this is where many learners feel pressure. In present simple, most verbs stay in the base form, like work, study, live, play. But in third person singular, something changes. He works, she studies, it plays. That extra s or es is a present tense feature. Past simple does not use s or es like that. Past simple uses the past form, and it stays the same for all subjects. I worked, he worked, they worked, she studied, we studied. This is a major difference and also a major relief, because past simple is consistent across subjects. The challenge is learning past forms, but the good news is you do not have to worry about he versus they in the verb ending the same way you do in present simple. Questions are another area where present and past are different, but the pattern is still logical. In present simple questions, you use do or does. Do you work here? Does she live here? Do they study English? In past simple questions, you use did. Did you work yesterday? Did she live there? Did they study last night? The key difference is the helper word. Do and does are present. Did is past. And here is the confidence tip that saves you from a common mistake. When you use did, the main verb goes back to the base form. You say, did you go, not did you went. You say, did she call, not did she called. In present questions, it is similar. Do you go, does she go? The helper carries the tense and the main verb stays basic. Negatives also follow this same logic, but with different helpers for different times. Present simple negatives use do not or does not. I do not know, she does not like tea, they do not live here. Past simple negatives use did not. I did not go, she did not call, they did not arrive. Again, the difference is the helper. Do not and does not belong to present, did not belongs to past. And again, after did not, you must use the base verb. I did not went is incorrect. I did not go is correct. This is a small rule, but it creates big clarity. Now let us compare continuous forms, because present continuous and past continuous are close cousins, but they live in different time zones. Present continuous uses am, is, are plus the ing verb, and it describes actions happening now or around now. I am studying, she is cooking, they are talking. Past continuous uses was, were plus the ing verb, and it describes actions happening at a specific past moment. I was studying at 7 p.m. She was cooking when you called, they were talking during the meeting. The difference is the helping verb. Am, is, are belong to now. Was, were belong to before now. The ing verb stays the same, which makes it easier, but you must choose the correct helper to match the time. One of the biggest practical differences is how present and past sound in storytelling. Present tense is often used for habits and current situations, like a description of your life or your routine. I wake up early, I go to work, I study at night. Past tense is the engine of stories, memories, and completed experiences. I woke up early yesterday, I went to work, I studied at night. When you tell a story, your listener expects past forms because stories usually happen in finished time. That is why so many learners feel blocked when they try to tell stories. They stay in present by accident, and the listener feels confused. The solution is to decide your story time before you speak. If it already happened, stay in past for the main events. Now let us go deeper and include perfect forms because learners often confuse these when comparing present and past. Present perfect connects past to now. It describes life experience, recent actions with a result now, or actions that started in the past and continue to the present. You say, I have lived here for 5 years, meaning you started living here 5 years ago and you still live here now. You say, she has finished her work, meaning the result is true now. Past perfect is different because it lives completely in the past and is used when you talk about two past times and you need to show which happened earlier. You say, I had finished my work before I went out. The going out is past and finishing happened even earlier in the past. Present perfect is past plus now. Past perfect is past before past. That is a big difference, and understanding it makes your timelines clean. The continuous perfect forms have a similar difference, but they focus on duration. Present perfect continuous connects duration to now. I have been learning English for 1 year means you started earlier and you are still learning now. Past perfect continuous connects duration to a past moment. I had been learning English for 1 year before I moved means the learning continued up to a past point and then something else happened. Present perfect continuous is duration up to now. Past perfect continuous is duration up to a past moment. These are powerful tools, but the time focus is the difference. Another difference is how present and past interact with politeness and tone in real speech. In many situations, past forms can sound softer and more polite, especially in requests. People sometimes say, I wanted to ask you something, even if they want to ask it now because it sounds gentle. They might say, I was hoping you could help me. That does not mean it happened yesterday. It is a polite style choice. Present can sound more direct. I want to ask you something. I hope you can help me. Both are correct, but they create a different feeling. This is useful for learners who want not only correct grammar but also natural communication. Now let us talk about the most common mistakes that happen because learners do not feel the differences clearly. One common mistake is mixing time signals. A learner says, "Yesterday I go to school." The word yesterday demands past, so it should be, "Yesterday I went to school." Another mistake is forgetting the third persons in present simple. A learner says, "She work every day." In present simple it should be, "She works every day." Another mistake is using past form after did. A learner says, "Did you went?" It should be, "Did you go?" Another mistake is confusing was and were. I was, he was, she was, it was, you were, we were, they were. These are small details, but they create big improvements when you fix them early. A simple training method is to practice time shifting, because it forces your brain to separate present and past clearly. Take one sentence and say it in present, then say it in past. I eat breakfast at 7. I ate breakfast at 7. She studies English every day. She studied English yesterday. They are playing now. They were playing when I arrived. Do you work here? Did you work yesterday? This kind of practice is not just grammar, it is mental flexibility. It teaches your brain to switch time quickly, which is exactly what happens in real conversation. The end goal is very clear. Present tense and past tense are different because they serve different time meanings, they use different helper words, and they create different timelines in the listener's mind. When you master these differences, you stop confusing people, you stop confusing yourself, and you start speaking with calm authority. You will be able to talk about your life now, your habits, and your plans, and you will also be able to tell stories, describe memories, and explain past experiences with clear order and strong confidence. If you stayed till here, you just proved something important. You can learn English in a simple, real, powerful way. Past tense is not your enemy anymore. It is your voice, your memory, your story. Now I want you to take one small step today. Say 3 sentences about yesterday, then say one short story about your week. Practice, not pressure. And if this lesson helped you, like the video, subscribe, and comment past so I know you're serious. I'll see you in the next lesson.